You are free to commence, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, James. So call to order the October 21st meeting of Heritage Kingston. You have an agenda. By the way, we have 6 members present. We have notices of absentees from 3, so we will be expecting Councillor Doherty and William Heineman at some point. You have an agenda. Do we have any additions to that agenda? We have a delegation which was noted in an email yesterday, and we have a piece of correspondence on item 12, which is to do with 7 George Street. Anything further? And if not, I will look for a mover to approve the agenda as amended. Councillor Osterhoff and Don Taylor, thank you very much. Further discussion? Seeing none, those in favour of the agenda as amended? Those opposed, which is nobody, so you now have an agenda. The minutes of September 16th were distributed. Are there any comments on those? And if not, I will look for a mover to approve those minutes. From somebody who was at the meeting, Jennifer, thank you, and seconded by Don Taylor. Discussion on those minutes, the way they were written, inaccuracies, omissions. Seeing none, then I will call the question to approve the minutes of September 16, 2020. Those in favour? Those opposed? We have a set of minutes. Get myself more in order here. Disclosures of pecuniary interest on any of the items that are presently on the agenda. And my comment always is, as discussion goes along, if we if you find that in fact there is a conflict, please announce it immediately. Good morning, Kelly. William, we have just started. And Councillor Doherty, welcome to you. So we now have all those whom we expect to be present. So any pecuniary interest to be declared? And seeing none, thank you very much. Presentations, Madam Clerk, do we have any presentations?
No, Mr. Chair, we do not.
Okay, we have a delegation though.
We do, Mr. Chair. Unfortunately, I do not see the delegate here at the moment at the meeting.
No.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, if I could just have a minute to send him the link and see if we can get him up on the... Okay. Oh, there's Miss Wilson. I apologize. Miss Wilson is here. She is part of the delegation. I will turn the mic over to her when you are ready, Mr. Chair.
Okay, she will have 5 minutes. I will warn at 4.5 minutes, and we will stop at 5 minutes. There will then can be questions by the committee to the delegation, not to staff, but to the delegation. So you're ready to go.
Mark Gladys here, Mr. Chair. If the clerk could call up our short presentation, please. And just go to the first slide, please. Okay, so thank you for this morning, this opportunity to talk to you about the windows at the rectory. Just a quick summary that we I think you're missing one slide. Elizabeth, no, there should be one more in between. Okay, well, we'll go with that one. So we're in agreement with the staff recommendation regarding restoring the 4 larger decorative windows and repainting in a similar color and to replace the 30 remaining windows. We also agree with the 4 conditions outlined in the staff report. So the rationale is 34 windows are in the building, and the owner undertook several studies and recommended replacement due to noise abatement, presence of lead, and poor condition of the units. But over the past month or so, a compromise solution has been developed, and it's agreeable to the owner. So next slide, please. So what we're talking about is the 4 larger decorative arched windows that we would be retaining and restoring. 3 are visible to the public, and 1 is within the enclosed veranda and is in the best condition, being protected from the weather. So I think you can see 3 of the 4 in these 2 pictures. Next slide, please. Sullivan Construction will be undertaking the retrofit of the windows, which involves scraping, repairing, and painting in a similar color as currently on the windows. We would also be looking at installing a storm window on the inside so that the window would cease to be operable from the inside. Next slide. So as you can see in the example of the typical window taken out of its opening, they are simple sash windows, and the windows are in varying conditions, levels of condition, and many have been altered. We received several reports and opinions on the condition of these windows. Several opinions were that they were in poor condition. Our intent with the window replacement is to improve thermal and sound protection. We agree with the compromise to retain and restore the 4 most significant windows and to replace the remaining windows. We feel this compromise does both to protect the cultural heritage value of the building and to modernize the building to achieve industry standards for thermal and sound protection. Last slide, please. So you see in the picture showing the existing and replacement windows together. So we're proposing replacing 30 of the 34 windows with the purchased new vinyl windows. The replacement windows are very good quality and a profile matching very closely to the existing window frames, and overall to appearance are much more elegant than the current arrangement of original storm windows. Existing windows being replaced will not be disposed of at a landfill site, but will be offered to various architectural salvage companies to be repurposed. That is our presentation. I don't know, Sandy, if you had any quick summary on thoughts?
No, I don't. Jillian, you're the project architect on this.
I think the one thing I would like to say is that these windows were purchased before a complete understanding of the windows policy was had by the client. At the time, because the windows weren't included in the bylaw, the original bylaw, they felt that they could replace the windows. They didn't think it was going to be an issue. It wasn't done out of malice. It was just their understanding was was limited.
And I think staff adequately explained that in their report regarding the policy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions from committee members to members of the delegation? And I am not seeing any.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, Ms. McFarland does have her hand up.
Jane?
Hi
Yes,
there.
Jane.
Yes, great. I just noticed in that last slide you showed that the existing windows were 2/2, well, kind of like 2/6, including the round thing, but the replacement windows are not. Could you confirm that?
I believe that in the case of the window we showed, that is not this precise window going in that opening.
Yes.
That the window for that opening does have that, but just the way the windows were delivered, we showed the closest window, but it's not the exact one going in that window. The other windows aren't 2/6. And that the window we showed, the new one is going in a different opening. I believe the one that is going in that opening does have that additional mountain bar. Sorry for that confusion.
Okay, and my next question is, are the Muntin bars on the exterior of the windows?
I don't believe that they are. The mountain bars are between the 2 panes.
Yes, the windows that are being retained are not being replaced, as you know, and consequently, we're working with the existing condition. There are no other Muntin bars on any other of the windows. They're
Okay.
all just simple arch, single sash.
But the example you showed had, of the one that was taken out, had Muntin bars. That's what I'm asking. Are they going to look exactly the same as the windows that were there?
In that case, there is, in that example, we can add an exterior Muntin bar if necessary. That is something that the supplier can provide. In that case, we took a sample window and put it by that window, but we'll ensure that that Muntin bar on the exterior is there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Further questions? I'm not seeing any waving and I'm not seeing any lifted hands. So I think that probably then will conclude the delegation. Last chance.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you, all of you there. Briefings, I believe there are none. Business, cultural heritage. Is this Jennifer or Paul going to introduce this one?
This will be Paul Robertson. Mr.
Paul
Chair.
Robertson. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have a slide deck. So what we're looking at here is actually the first acquisition that has come through across our table, and certainly before Heritage Kingston, since we passed the new collections management plan back in the late winter. So it's exciting for us to be able to present these particular objects, these lovely drawings of City Hall's dome. But at the same time, it gives us a bit of an opportunity to review how this acquisition process works. We've streamlined it, laid it out a little bit differently in the new policy. And so for the members of the committee, it's a good opportunity today to be able to look at how we now examine objects and assess them as they come through. Next slide, please. So the acquisitions process, of course, we've had for years an acquisitions process, no question. But as I say, it's a bit revised in the new management plan. The main defining feature is, what do we mean by the civic collection? Of course, the civic collection, those objects that belong to the city of Kingston, certainly historical objects, archival materials, archaeological materials, pieces of public art, and commemorative materials all form part of the civic collection. And in terms of what is our mandate, to promote public understanding of the history and culture of the city of Kingston, municipal government, and more generally, the tangible and intangible heritage of the Kingston community's culture, standards, and values. So the focus is very much on objects as they relate to the history of the community, which is Kingston. What is different in the new management plan is a streaming process. We've created 4 collections categories: primary, secondary, working, and general heritage assets, which help us to define what different objects mean to the collection and to the broader interpretation that we're doing with these objects. It helps us to organize ourselves better, and also to assess the collection as pieces are coming in, certainly, but also as we define what we've got and look at potential deaccessions down the road. Now, next slide, please. So just in brief overview, what do I mean by those 4 categories? Primary is the top drawer, if you will, of objects within the collection. So these are accessioned and cataloged items at the highest level of historic value. Certainly they fit the mandate the most closely, the mandate that we've just looked at. They are pieces which have the greatest historic and heritage integrity connected with an individual site or an existing collection or museum. And the example that I'm showing there is one of our beautiful mayor's portraits at City Hall, Mayor Creighton by William Sawyer. Clearly that's connected with the history of City Hall. Clearly it's connected with municipal government and the history of governance in Kingston. Next slide, please. Secondary collection. This is similar to the primary. Again, accessioned and cataloged objects, which means that they are looked at to the highest standard, properly housed and cared for, fully documented. Secondary, primary collections, both treated the same way. But what's a bit different is that they have heritage value, but they may not be directly related to an existing site or collection or museum. So their value is great from a heritage perspective, but not necessarily in the same way as, say, that Creighton portrait we just looked at. The example that I'm showing here is a piece from the McLaughlin collection, one of our woodworking planes, a compass plane. Again, this is an item of direct connection to that collection, direct connection to the collection, but it does not necessarily have a connection to the history of Kingston specifically. Hence why it would be in the secondary collection. Next slide, please. Now we move into the next two categories are a little different from primary and secondary. Working collection and general heritage assets we'll discuss in a second. These are pieces which are of value from a day-to-day working point of view to the work of cultural heritage and cultural services, but are not necessarily pieces which meet the criteria of primary and secondary. Working collection specifically is really our educational collection or our interpretive collection. So it can be used in exhibitions for interpretive purposes, hands-on. These are pieces which are not accessioned and cared for in the same way as primary and secondary. They're inventoried, we keep track of them, of course, but they're considered consumables. So if they're used in education programs over time and they eventually break or wear out, we can let them go without a formal deaccession or removals process, meaning it wouldn't come through Heritage Kingston and ultimately council. The primary and secondary, of course, are approved by council when we're bringing them in. Next slide, please. And general heritage assets, these are pieces which have value at the sites for very practical purposes. And in this case, a piece of furniture. It's a beautiful Chippendale style sofa, but it does not have a connection with the history of Kingston specifically. It doesn't meet the criteria for primary or secondary, but it suits our needs, say at City Hall, as an historic style piece of furniture. Much of that furniture that was brought in the 1970s as part of the renovation, again, historic looking. It suits the sensibilities of this heritage National Historic Site, but they're considered consumables when they are worn out. They can be let go. They're non-accessioned. All right, next slide, please. So what is different with the acquisitions process from previously with the new collections management policy is our weighted criteria assessment. So every object that is offered to us goes through a series of questions that to see how it fits the criteria of what we feel fits one of those four streams in terms of coming into the civic collection. If it doesn't get enough points at the end of it, then the piece is not accepted. It also helps us to stream which collection the piece should actually go through. So what are the types of questions we look at? What is the collection classification? How does it fit the criteria of primary, secondary, general heritage assets, or working collection? What is its condition? And then of course, by association, what costs would it be to look after this piece, either just to look after it, or does it need restoration, conservation work? What are the anticipated uses for an object? In other words, is it going to be for educational purposes? Is it for research purposes, for exhibition, all those kinds of things? What are its storage requirements? And again, what are the associated costs for storing that piece? Do we have duplicates? Is this item just duplicating an object which already exists in the collection? And then ultimately, what is the staff recommendation coming out of the weighted criteria, the scoring system, that chart you see, and also comments we get from the Heritage Assets Working Group. Next slide, please. Now, here we are to the objects at hand. These are pieces which came to us a couple of months ago, have been offered to us, I should say, a couple of months ago, and they're exciting because they so directly relate to the mandate of the Civic Collection, and most specifically the work that we're doing here at City Hall. There are two groups of objects. The first group that we are recommending for the primary collection are three original pen and ink drawings of the dome of City Hall, done by architects Power and Son, and which include an elevation, cross section, and plan. We believe they're undated, but we do believe that they date to about 1908, which is just the time after the fire that destroyed the dome in 1908. Next slide, please. So remembering what we just talked about a second ago about the assessment process, I take this particular object as an example of that process. The collection classification that's recommended is primary because of its direct connection, certainly with City Hall and its interpretive history. Why do we wish to inquire? acquire it because of its interpretive value for City Hall history, and certainly its direct connection with the National Historic Site. These objects help to tell us the story about that fire of 1908 and the process whereby it was restored to what we have today. And it's connected with Power and Son, one of Kingston's leading architects, who was commissioned to repair and restore the dome after that fire. And we certainly have no other drawings of this nature in the collection here in Kingston, certainly not in the Civic collection, so of great value that way. Next slide, please. Now, this is the second category of objects that I was discussing. The donation included a series of objects. The three drawings that we're recommending for the primary collection is the one. These other objects, they have value, but we believe that they have a greater connection with our general heritage assets category. So remembering that these are objects which would not go into the Civic collection specifically, but would be looked after, inventoried, and used largely for their interpretive and research value. The objects that have been offered in this group include a photograph. It's a copy of an original drawing of the City Hall dome circa 1908, the original of which is at Library and Archives Canada in Ottawa. It's a beautiful piece, comes in a lovely frame, but it's not an original piece, so we can't consider it for the primary collection. But it certainly would fit the Heritage Resource Center as an interpretive piece. It could be used in exhibitions. It could be used different ways. Also with this group was a folio of photos assembled by the donor's father, Harry Price Smith, who was an architect with Drever and Smith. And if you know your Kingston architectural history, Drever and Smith were the successors to Power and Son in the 20th century. And this particular folio of photos includes images of City Hall after the 1973 renovation. So the last major renovation of City Hall was in 1973. And so these are of interesting value, interpretive and research value as to what the space looked like immediately following that period of renovation. And another volume, a published volume by Harry Price Smith depicting other works by Drever and Smith. Again, pieces that all relate to Kingston architects, Kingston, the architectural sector, pieces that would be very useful in the Heritage Resource Center. Next slide, please. And so, as I've discussed, these would be recommended for the general heritage assets so that they are not part of the Civic collection. They can be deaccessioned or transferred or moved wherever if that's required down the road. The reason to collect them, as I've discussed, their value for research and interpretation of City Hall and the broader architectural heritage of Kingston, and would most suitably be housed at the Heritage Resource Center. And I believe that is my last slide. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul. Does the committee have questions? And I'm not seeing any hands or any wave. Oh, Councillor Doherty.
Just a really quick questions, and through you, Chair. Thanks, Paul, for the presentation. That was really interesting. Because it was a slideshow, it was kind of hard to tell the size of the pictures, but they look pretty large, so the drawings. So I wonder if you could just share with us kind of what the actual size of them is.
Through you, Mr. Chair. They're about 24 by 30, the actual frame drawings. So that they have frames on them and mats, which of course we will remove when they come in for preservation purposes, but they're a nice size. They've actually been hanging on the donor's wall for many years. He and his father emptied the offices or went through their archival drawings decades ago, and so these pieces ended up in his living room, I think, on the wall. And we're very fortunate that they're being offered to us now.
Thanks, Paul.
Other questions? Okay, seeing none then, we need a motion, is that right? I can't remember what we do on these. We need a motion to accept the recommendation in 8.1.
Mr. Chair, there are There are members of the public who are here today. Perhaps we can afford them a chance if they have any questions on
Okay,
this matter.
I'm looking for hands and not seeing any.
If there are any members of the public who wish to speak, please use the raise hand function. You can find this when you open your participants list, and it will be at the bottom. Just give a couple seconds here to see if anyone wishes to speak. And I do not see any hands, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we go on then to a motion, which I believe would read that the committee approves the recommendation noted in today's minutes at 8A1 of acquiring these 6 objects for the city collection. Moved by Councillor Doherty, seconded by Councillor Oosterhoek. Further discussion? Everybody had their hand up then, so I don't think there would be. Those in favour? Those opposed? Thank you. Thank you very much, Paul, for introducing those, and good luck with them. We go on to policy development and implementation, the heritage assets. And then to step business. And this is 484 Albert, 620 Princess. Who is bringing this one?
Mr. Chair, this should be James Barr who is presenting.
Okay, thank you.
Hey everybody, I just had a moment where I had a hard time finding my unmute button, so I apologize for that.
Join the club, James, join the club. Welcome.
All right, thank you. My name's James Barr, I'm a planner with the city, and I'm here today to present on Heritage Permit Application P18085-2020 for the lands located at 484 Albert Street and 620 Princess Street to adapt the land for new uses. Historically used as a church, manse, and Sunday school, the site is proposed to house the home-based housings development for their one roof support programs, 48 beds for transitional and supportive housing, a community and performance space, a retail store and youth skills training center, and the United Churches congregation and continuum. So I would ask to go to the next slide, please. Do I have control of this or does someone else?
No, James will be looking after the slides.
Perfect, thanks, James. So the lands are located at the southwest corner of Albert Street and Princess Street. The site used to be 2 separate parcels, but have now merged under common ownership. Next slide, please. Both sites were designated under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act in 2017 for their architectural, cultural, and associative value. 484 Albert Street is currently developed with the Princess Street United Church, which is an example of a collegiate Gothic style architecture. It remains the only example of its kind in the area. Batcher Hall, which is the 2-story addition on the southern end of it, was constructed on the south side of the church and continues the style of the church across its facade. Behind the church is an addition that contains the Sunday school. 620 Princess Street was developed as the manse for the congregation. This manse was constructed before the current church and is built in an Edwardian style. It remains one of the last Edwardian houses on Princess Street, but there are numerous examples of this typology in the neighborhood to the south. Next slide, please. The lands are located within the Williamsville Main Street corridor, which is the city's primary intensification corridor. The policies for this area balance new development with existing heritage features and the characteristics of the surrounding neighborhood. Specifically, the official plan seeks to protect, enhance, support, and adaptively reuse cultural heritage resources while encouraging compatible and complementary infill development. Next slide, please. The application is proposed to be built out in 4 phases. The first phase is the renovation of the Sunday school wing for the one roof youth counseling services. This work is mostly interior and is currently underway. When looking at the slide, each of the phases has been numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4, just to give you a general idea of what I'm talking about on the property and where it's located. Secondly, the existing sanctuary will be maintained as the congregation space for the United Church, but it will also be adapted for a youth center, banqueting, and performance space. There are minor upgrades to the building that will include modern heating and cooling utilities, connections on the south wall to the transitional and supportive housing space, interior structural upgrades to the roof, and minor repointing and refurbishing work. Number 3, Vatcher Hall is proposed to be demolished and a new 6-story building constructed in its place to house the 48 transitional and supportive housing units, as well as a dining hall space, kitchen, and shipping loading facilities for the site. Number 4, the Manse facing Princess Street is proposed to be demolished in order to construct a new 2-story building that will house a retail cafe and youth skills training center. Next slide, please. This is an aerial image of the property looking southwest from the intersection of Albert and Princess Street. Here you can see the new 6-story building proposed where Vatcher Hall currently stands, and the church restored and maintained in place. A new parkette is proposed at the corner of Princess Street and Albert, and then to the right of that is the new 2-story retail cafe and youth skills training center. Next slide, please. The 6-story building, while the largest building on the site, is proposed to be constructed with lighter colored materials. This allows the designated cultural heritage attribute, that being the church and the facade of Vatcher Hall, to retain prominence on the site, with the new building acting as a background building. The front wall of Vatcher Hall facing Albert Street will be maintained and integrated into the facade. The taller portion is also set back from the front wall, highlighting the feature. This helps to ground the tower with a strong podium and ties together both the new and older building. In front of the building as well will be new ramping and stairs to provide an accessible entrance to both the church sanctuary space as well as the transitional and supportive housing. All material choices are outlined in Exhibit E of the report on the annotated elevation drawings. Next slide, please. The retail cafe, the building proposed on the right-hand side of this picture, is in the location of the former Manse. The cafe, with its high amount of glazing, will spill out and animate the spaces of both the street and the parkette. The building would frame the western end of the parkette as well. It is proposed to be clad in light materials with high amounts of glazing or grade to showcase the retail space. All material choices for this building are also outlined in Exhibit E on the annotated elevation drawings. Next slide, please. The current location of the Manse is at the far western end of the property. So that's the image on the left-hand side. The Manse is currently outlined in green, and you can see its close proximity to the lot line. The Manse is proposed to be demolished for 2 reasons. Firstly, the cost and ability to adapt the structure for accessibility purposes was prohibitive and difficult to achieve. Secondly, the services for the site are proposed to come in off Princess Street along the northwestern lot line. The new building is proposed further east into the property, as demonstrated on the right-hand side picture, allowing for a utility corridor to be extended into the property and allow for a dedicated pedestrian access for the One Roof services. So that pedestrian access area is located where the number 4 currently is. So between the red line and the building, that's where the utilities would be coming in, and that would be difficult to achieve with the current location of the Manse itself. Next slide, please. While this may be one of the last Edwardian houses on Princess Street in Williamsville, there are numerous examples of Edwardian style houses in the neighborhood to the south. These 4 images are from Albert and Nelson Street, just south of Princess Street. These are a small example of the type of Edwardian houses that were present in this neighborhood. The analysis was submitted as part of the addendum to the Heritage Report and is included as Exhibit F to the report. Next slide, please. The next 4 slides are just to give you an idea of what this site looks like from an aerial perspective with some of the surrounding context. So here we're currently looking south from Princess Street, which is on the southern side, and Albert Street is to the left-hand side. So you can see the church in Vacher Hall with the new 6-story building in behind and the 2-story retail cafe located in the bottom right-hand corner of this photo. Next slide, please. Here is that same angle looking west, so looking up Princess Street from Albert Street. Next slide, please. Here you can see the existing 2-story, 1-roof building, which is the former Sunday school in the bottom left-hand corner of the photo, being maintained in place. So this is looking north across the property. Next slide, please. And here we are looking east, so looking down Princess Street towards downtown. You can see the 2-story retail cafe and skills training center and its attachment to the main church, creating that private space in behind, which is the utilities being brought in for the site, but is also a dedicated pedestrian entrance for the 1-roof services and would provide a bit of private amenity space in the evening times for residents of this building where they would have their own space. So next slide, please. So staff are recommending approval of this application. The proposed redevelopment of the site is positive from both a heritage perspective, bringing new life and uses to the site and ensuring its continued use, as well as from an urban design and city building perspective. Overall, the proposed changes represent a compatible, distinguishable modern intervention that prominently and appropriately displays the cultural heritage attributes of the site. Next slide, please. There are a set of conditions tied to this approval, which are recommended in the report. With the removal of the manse required for the servicing of the site, the applicants have expressed the desire to amend condition number 3, which states that the manse cannot be demolished until such time that a site plan has been approved and registered on the title of lands and a building permit is submitted and approved for the construction of the 2-story commercial building fronting along Princess Street. With the requirement for the manse to be removed for services to be brought into the site, they would like the last part of the condition removed. So that is a building permit is submitted and approved for the construction of the 2-story commercial building along Princess Street. Staff have reviewed this request and we are satisfied with amending this condition. So it just reads that the manse cannot be demolished until such time that a site plan has been approved and registered on the title of the lands. We're satisfied with this change because it still holds a trigger for the next stage of development and that the removal can only occur once the actuals for the site have been approved. So that would be the servicing for the site, locations of the building, landscaping, and the materiality for the buildings. This would still ensure that the building could be built down, the building being the new 2-story retail skills cafe, that it would still be built down the line as it would have its approvals. Next slide, please. So we do have the applicants here today. Pierre Klein is here with Home Base Housing and Jerry Schultz with Schultz and Zabak Architect. We'd be happy to answer any questions you have on the application.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions from the committee on any part of that? Councillor Doherty.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. James, thanks for the presentation. You had lots of really good visuals that helped helps us make a decision. The one visual that I really could have used is maybe a streetscape, how there are a lot of changes. It's part of the Williamsville corridor, and And so I just wonder, because what we're looking at is a small, old church with this big building beside it. But I think having a full picture of that part of Princess Street might help. So I wonder if we could speak to some of the newer or planned construction around that area of Princess Street.
Sure, thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Some of the earlier images I had in the presentation showed the streetscape when I was specifically speaking about the 6-story addition building as well as the Retail Skills Cafe. They're also included as Exhibit D in the report. So Exhibit D, that would be pages 41 and onward, so 42 and 43 of the report, which is Exhibit D, contains some streetscape shots for the property. So what this would look like from the street. Williamsville, as we all know, is undergoing significant change. There are a number of approvals through this area for new buildings ranging from 5 stories to 10 stories. Directly kitty corner to this site is a property known as 575 Princess Street, which has an approval for a 10-story building. It's currently going through its final legs of site plan control. And so I believe some construction activity has started on site for its underground parking. So we will see new development there in the short term. On the same block of this, just at Nelson and Princess, there's a new 5-story mid-rise building that's gone up. Under construction now are several 10-story buildings at 652 Princess Street, as well as 333 University. And we are seeing more urbanizing change to this corridor. So the density of this area is going to increase over the next 5 to 10 years. And part of that change, as proposed, would be this site adding a 6-story smaller building compared to what we've seen in the corridor, but adding to the mix of housing available in the area. So we'll, in an area where we'll both have market rental as well as condominium, these transitional and supportive housing units located on the Princess Street corridor, which has both active transportation and transit facilities, so both express and local, would add to the mix of units in the area.
Thank you very much.
Further questions? Councillor Oosterhoff.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, certainly can.
Yes, we can.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, James, for that presentation. And I'm very excited about this development as well. And it's going to be a tremendous addition to our city and to the area. And I'm sorry if I missed it. Is this a time to see any of the inside layout drawings, or is that just right now it's just, we're only concerned about, that's another planning department, not so much heritage. I guess, like how many units will be on the inside? Is that information we can have, so to speak?
Perfect, and thank you through you, Mr. Chair. Exhibit D of the report does contain some of the internal layouts for the buildings. After the elevation drawings are some floor plans, so you can take a look through those. What the applicant has proposed currently as way of this proposal is 48 transitional and supportive housing units contained in that 6-story building. They do still require additional approvals. So there is an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment application, which I believe is pending, that we should see come in shortly. And then after that would be a site plan control approval. So through the zoning bylaw amendment, we would establish the minimums and maximums for the site.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. I think we should all be very excited about this project. I've been sort of on the sidelines watching it and been involved a wee little bit of, but I just think that there's so many positive things going on here, and just glad that we can be part of it as a heritage committee and give it all the support we can. And there's so many great people are involved, so it's great. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Oosterhoff. Jane McFarlane.
Yes, I'm hoping that we can get some idea of the timeline for all of the phases. In particular, phase 4, if a building is being demolished, it would be nice if it wasn't sitting beside the heritage building the church empty for some time. So I'd appreciate a timeline on that. Thanks.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I can tell you that phase 1 is currently underway. So that is the one roof services. They're currently being renovated in that back building to move on to the site. But we do have Pierre Klein here today with Home Base Housing. So I would ask the chair of the committee to, the chair of the committee to unmute him, and then he can give everyone an idea for the timeline of this project.
Okay, Pierre, welcome.
Thank you very much, and thank you for our opportunity to speak to the committee. In terms of timelines, we are under extreme pressure by the province and the funding envelope that they have provided us to move very quickly on this project. And so in terms of timelines, it would be our expectation that we would need to demolish the Manse by the end of the year. And then be able to, by March 31st, have demolished what we need to in the Vatcher Hall building so that we can begin construction. One of the key elements that problems that we're facing is we need a 5-meter corridor to put servicing in, water, sewer, etc., as the municipality has requested or required us to do those services off of Princess Street. Unfortunately, we need to also be able to continue the operations of One Roof, which has 27 agencies helping and supporting vulnerable and homeless youth. To keep that operating means that we actually have to put in the services into a temporary basement kind of construction so that we can connect the One Roof building to the new services while we demolish services that are currently providing sewer and water to that portion of the property. So we have a very tight timeline in which we need to operate. And we actually need to have that demolished Manse by the end of the year to be able to move forward. We're talking about $12 million in funding, and at least $6 million of that could be in jeopardy if we do not have and do not move on the timelines that we are required to by the province and the federal government.
Okay, thank you very much. Further questions? If not, I'd like to speak. So Don, perhaps you could take the chair for a little while. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that last statement really worries me, that we're suddenly being pushed into a 2-month timeline, because I can approve all of this. I think it's a wonderful project, except for the demolition of the Manse. And I think that it's fine saying there are other houses around, and the next time one of these comes up to the committee, the same argument will be made. There's another one around, there's another one around, and suddenly we're down to the last one. Secondly, Princess Street was a living street, and that house reminds us very much of what the street used to be like. It has changed so dramatically in the last few years to become a tunnel almost of high rises, and I think it would be a great shame to lose the Manse. Thirdly, I'm really concerned by the Parkette. I don't know how many of you move up and down Princess. I live in the area, and Princess Street is a pretty messy, dirty street. That Parkette, I suspect, will become a mess very, very quickly. And to me, that is the space where the building that is meant to go on where the Manse is should be put. A single-story building running along the front and use the Manse. But I really believe I cannot vote to demolish the Manse, as simple as that. Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Peter. Before I hand back the chair, I should remind people that these are questions to the applicants, and we'll have a discussion later. Thank you.
Further questions to the applicants? Jennifer?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, it seems
Sorry,
that
Mr. Chair.
James Barr wanted to respond to your comments. If we could just allow him a
Okay,
moment.
James or Pierre, whoever wants to come first. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will take a first stab at this and then hand it over to Pierre to see if he has anything further to add. Just building off what you've mentioned about the Parkette. The Parkette, let me back up a little bit further. So the Williamsville Main Street has seen a lot of change in the past couple of years as a result of the disinvestment in the corridor with the change in travel patterns through the city. So while it has maybe in most recent memory not been the most beautiful street in the city of Kingston or the most functional street in the city of Kingston, other than as a way to get in and out of downtown, the policies that are in place are pushing that in a direction which is rapidly changing. This is one of our primary intensification corridors in the city, which is seeing the type of growth that the policy has anticipated, which is reinvesting in the neighborhood and bringing forward both new commercial uses as well as new residential uses for this area. And part of that is the change in amenity that's supposed to be provided in the area. And that is a series of parkettes which staff have been negotiating as part of new developments through this area. So I believe there's about 3 developments, not including this one, which are going to be providing parkettes, which are urban areas of respite for people traveling through the corridor. And we'll continue to add to the revitalization of Main Street through this part of the area. Additionally, the parkette is required because that northern facing wall of the church is actually a designated heritage attribute, and its viewscape from Main Street, in this case Princess Street, needs to be preserved. So locating a building in front of the church along Princess Street would actually be counter to the designation and counter to the policies that are in place in the standards and guidelines for the conservation of historic places. So staff see the parkette as a huge benefit to this development as well as the corridor. And I'm going to turn this over to Pierre to see if he has anything further to add. But I believe Andrea Gummo, Manager of Policy Planning, has also raised her hand.
Thank you.
Sorry, Pierre, do you mind if I just say one quick thing and then switch it
Certainly.
over? Thanks, James. That was a great response. I just wanted to add one more consideration for this location through you, Mr. Chair. The bus stop that exists on the corner here, which is kind of in front of the proposed parkette, is actually the busiest bus stop in the whole city, according to our partners at Kingston Transit. So it's good to get a little bit of extra space there in order to support that transit location as well. Thanks.
Thank you. The entire discussion with the community was significantly around the Williamsville study, as well as the desire on our part and on their part to maintain livable community spaces on Princess Street. And our parkette is one of the few that are really available on the street. The entire design of this project was to frame the church so that we highlight the heritage value of the architecture of and the history of that facility. And so I would be not in favor of putting a building in front of that asset. Further, if you allow me to be frank, if we cannot demolish the church, the project fails. And the church, I meant the Manse. If we can't demolish the Manse, the project fails. We will not get our funding. We cannot build what we need to build because we cannot put services in. It's just that simple. So if the Manse stands, the project fails, we lose $11 million in funding because we can't proceed. I would have to recommend to the board of directors that we abandon the project if that's the case, and that we resell the property for other purposes.
Okay, thank you. Looking for other hands. Jennifer.
Hello, really cool project. I guess I'm wondering what sort of design considerations were given to keep part of the maze, understanding that obviously you guys need to put the services in, but keeping parts of it could be sort of a mid-level solution?
Jerry, you're going to answer that?
Yes, please.
Okay, please.
Thank you. We did look at, in quite a bit of detail, at the possible adaptive reuse of the manse. It really wasn't possible at the end of the day. The challenges are the manse main floor is half a floor above the street. The floor plate is quite small. There's a small living room, a vestibule, a kitchen, and a bathroom on the main floor. And many of the walls are bearing walls. Secondly, the program for the skills training and cafe, there's two parts to it. One is providing training for the youth in food services and public service or service to the public. And that requires quite a bit of space, more space than you would need in a typical cafe. So for those reasons, it isn't possible to adaptively reuse the existing manse. And these were studies that we did before we knew from later discussions with the city that we needed to bring a service corridor along the west side of the property, which requires demolishing the manse. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Further questions? And seeing none, we move on then to the recommendation.
Chair, if we could just give the members of the public a chance to
members
speak.
of the
If there's
public.
anyone here who would like to speak, please use the raised hand function now. If you are joining us by telephone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 now. And Mr. Chair, I see that Miss Shirley Bailey would like to speak.
Excuse me, I can.
I have Pierre.
Yeah, it was our understanding that we had the opportunity of 5 minutes to do a presentation.
Not that I was aware of, Madam Clerk. What have I missed?
Mr. Chair, if you could just give me 2 minutes pause.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I do not believe that we have any slides from Mr. Klein at the moment. However, if he'd like to speak as a member of the public, we can afford him the 5 minutes as a member of the public.
Well, thank you. We were informed in an email by James, the planner, that we had 5 minutes, and there's comments from our consultant, our heritage consultant, and our architect as well. But I will take this opportunity right now. I won't go over everything we've already discussed. This is a historic moment for Kingston. There is no other project of this magnitude or of this significance in the province. We will be, again, as we have with One Roof, with 27 community agencies providing support for vulnerable and homeless youth, a center of excellence in trying to counter long-term homelessness through the construction of the residential as well as the other skills training center and the use of the cultural center being the former sanctuary. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for vulnerable and homeless youth in Kingston. And we certainly are looking for the support of this committee and council so that we can move forward very quickly with the support we've already received unsolicited from the province and federal government. The Manse demolishment is absolutely necessary. We need to do that by the end of the year. I'm not quite sure that leaving part of the condition number 3 in place is going to be able to allow us to do that. We haven't had enough discussion, I guess, with planning on the portion that they want to keep to see whether or not that would hinder us by the end of the year, having the Manse demolished. Like I said, without the demolishment of the Manse, this project is dead. And so is all the funding. So I'll turn it over to Jerry for him to add any architectural issues, and then Don, our heritage consultant, to say anything he needs to.
Thank you, Pierre. Actually, I've covered the points that I was going to talk about in my part of the presentation, which is our review of the possibility of adaptive reuse and the needs of the phasing and the need to demolish the Manse as a result. Only thing I will mention is that the original church would also be kept in operation throughout the project. So part of the phasing is not only to reconnect the One Roof project, but also to reconnect the original church, which is currently serviced by a service room in the addition behind Vasher Hall. So I'll turn it over to Don, if I could at this point.
Hello, Don Luke speaking. I'm very impressed with the discussion about the various benefits of this project, and I can only agree. And part of my recommendation, and I hate recommending demolition, but part of my agreement to demolition is that the benefits outweigh any of the negatives. What this project is providing for the community is very important. And I think that the discussion about the preservation and or reuse, we went through that at length about the possibility, the accessibility, the size of the space, and it simply doesn't work, or wouldn't work. And so I can only say, with a bit of regret, I think I can support, as I have in my report, the demolition of the Manse as a way to make this project happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pierre. Is that the presentation?
Yes, thanks.
Good, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, you said that Shirley Bailey was about to speak, and I don't see her on my list even.
She is here and she is unmuted.
Okay,
Bailey,
it
if you'd
is.
like to speak.
Okay, she has
Morning, committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today, and I do hope everyone can hear me. I won't reiterate the many things that we've heard this morning. It won't come as any surprise to you that our board discussed this matter at our board meeting last evening, and we are thoroughly dismayed that the Manse is planned to be demolished. It is one of the, there are not very many properties that are designated along Princess Street, and this one was only designated, I believe the bylaw went through in early 2018. And we do recognize that the church has interior designations and it is going to be retained. But as Don Luke has just said, you know, everyone hates to see a demolition of a heritage building. So I will leave it at that. And it's a great project. Yes, perhaps from a planning point of view, but from a heritage perspective, it's a tough pill to swallow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Last call then for members of the public. And seeing none, members of the committee. Otherwise, I will look for a motion. You have the motion which has been altered in condition 3 by the exclusion after the word lands in the second line. So the third, fourth and fifth lines have been taken out of condition 3. Looking for a mover for the motion. Moved by Councillor Oosterhoff, seconded Jeremy. Discussion. Further discussion, I should say. William Kelly.
Thank you, Peter, and good morning to everyone. Peter, I certainly have to agree with you in reference to the demolition of the Manse. It's certainly not a great decision for a Heritage Committee to recommend the demolition of a historic building. And in any other case, I would probably agree with you that, however, in this case, I have to go with the project. To lose this project, in my opinion, would be very detrimental to the community as whole. We really do need support for youth. It's been a long time coming, and we have many problems going on in the community in reference to drugs and things like that, and social issues and homeless issues, and to give it up would be, in my opinion, a huge loss. So I'm going to have to support the demolition of the Manse and move forward. And I think if we do vote, I would like to see a recorded vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I see Don Taylor.
Yes, well, as we all know, this is a challenging situation we're in. First, let me say the obvious, that I think it's a wonderful project, and I'm very impressed with almost all of it. I note that the applicants, I believe, responded to our earlier comments that the new tall building should not be too bright, and I think it's going to be somewhat muted stone color, which sounds fine. One other very minor comment I would make is that I think the approval includes landscaping, which is probably pretty preliminary at this point, but I noticed in the views that we saw of the Parkette and the front of the church that there's a row of 4 trees across the front of the church. And to me, I love trees, but the purpose of trees is not to hide an attractive building. So I would say make the church. So getting on to the main problem, the Manse, as a Heritage Committee, it's extremely difficult for us to approve the demolition of a designated building. And when this came to the committee as a pre-consultation back in April, I think it was, I made that point, and I said that I didn't think the committee should support demolition without a good deal more evidence and documentation that we had. The Heritage Impact Statement says nothing about the qualities of the design of the glass cafe. It says nothing about the appearance of that new building in the context of the Princess Street corridor. And I don't think people recognize sufficiently the fact that the church and the Manse together form a unit with more heritage value than just the one. And the loss of the Manse is a serious loss of heritage value to the church. And since April, we have got what I was hoping for. Instead, we have essentially at the last minute an ultimatum that this has to be approved or the whole project is dead. And as a committee member, I really resent committee being subject to that kind of pressure. You know, again, we don't have a lot of information, but it sounded to me as if city staff were telling the applicants that you must have a utilities corridor in the location of the Manse. Why not behind Vatcher Hall, up that alley behind the building? You know, I think we don't, you know, I think we're not being in a legitimate position judgment on the Manse, and I think it should be removed from the current recommendations. I know timeline is tight, but we can have another meeting in another month. So I don't know. I understand what the applicants are saying, and I simply have to regret the way that it's come to the committee. And for that reason, I think I will, just to put some meat on the bones, so to speak, I think I will recommend a revision to remove item 4 of the recommendation, which is the demolition of the Manse. So that's a motion for consideration by the committee.
So your motion then would be to completely delete recommendation 4, demolition of the Manse facing Princess Street and its replacement, etc., and renumber the remaining 3 items.
Yes, on the understanding that this would come back probably the next meeting.
Yeah,
with more information.
Do we have a seconder for that motion to delete recommendation 4? And I don't see a seconder there. So I think, Don, that dies at that point. And I'm looking for other hands. I see you, Councillor Oosterhoff. I'd just like to go through anybody else, members of the committee who wish to speak. Andrea, we're with members of the committee at present.
Okay.
I know. I've got shut up this way as well. Back to Councillor Oosterhoff then.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to echo Kelly's words and his comments to this project. I guess there always is a time where we have to trust what we've been given, the information. I know I'm still fairly new to this committee, and I recognize the difficulty of this decision. I empathize with it, and I think I can read in this that there's all the considerations are being given to everything that we can do to value the heritage of that location. We are in a location of great change there, a vicinity, and we have incredible people putting everything together. Yes, every now and then, I don't think there's any intention to overpressure, but there are times now where we have to recognize tight timelines, and we have to respond fairly quickly and trust in the integrity of those who are working so incredibly behind the scenes for this. And this is a great project, and there's so many synergies happening now, and I just hope that this committee can recognize that and give it the push, the support it needs, and to accomplish the incredible work that it will be doing for generations to come. So I'm hopeful that we can support this. Thank you.
Good, thank you very much. Other members of the committee, Councillor Doherty? Need to unmute, I believe.
Yeah, it wasn't popping up. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, this is, it's really incredibly sad to hear that it was only designated, the Manse was only designated in 2018. And there's certainly, I think we all can feel the frustrations that are real and totally understandable. But the needs are so great. It wasn't until I actually saw the integrated hub and spoke with the staff there that I recognized what drugs is doing to our community and how much our youth really need this. This is unbelievably necessary to do. But having said that, it's frustrating because in a sense, I feel like we're picking heritage building over the needs of youth. And so it doesn't feel comfortable feeling cornered like that. But I do want to just also pick up on something that Dawn said regarding the landscaping. And I know we're not voting on that, but the Parkette on Princess Street, like a lot can be done with some thoughtful landscaping. So I just hope that we can build that into the project and make that part of Princess Street look really good, because I can see the concerns regarding the Parkette. Happy to hear that the bus stop is so busy. And really, I want to just thank everybody in home-based housing for pushing this forward, because you are giving our youth a better chance by getting this project going. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Last call for members of the committee to speak. And seeing none, Madam Clerk, I'll ask you to, I believe, run the recorded vote.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I will begin with you, Peter Gower.
I vote against.
Councillor Doherty. I'm sorry, Councillor Doherty, I did not receive that.
I vote for it.
Thank you. Councillor Oosterhoff.
I am in favor of this recommendation.
Thank you. Jennifer Demeter.
Against.
Kelly Heineman.
I'm in favor of the motion.
Thank you. Jane McFarlane.
Mute. I vote in favor.
Thank you. Jeremy St. Ange.
I vote in favor.
Thank you. And Don Taylor. Apologies, you've muted.
I vote against.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, there are 3 members against and 4 in favor.
That is carried then, and it goes on to council as our recommendation with the one change in condition 4, I think. Good. Thank you all for that presentation. Thank you all for a difficult discussion there, and presenters and visitors. And we move on to 98 Clergy Street. Who is presenting 98 Clergy?
Mr. Ryan Leary is present to speak to this one, Mr. Chair.
Excellent.
Morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm okay. Thank you. Perhaps we start with the second slide. This property is on the west side of Clergy Street. It's 98 Clergy Street East. It's just north of the intersection with Brock Street. This is an aerial here. Can we skip to the next slide, please? It is part of a 7-unit row house as designated under Part 4. The large building immediately to the south is the St. Mary's Cathedral, just to give you some idea of where we are. If you go to the next slide, please. The unit that we're dealing with, number 98, is the second unit in the row, which is the center unit in this picture. This picture was taken a few years ago to try to get a spring shot where you can see beyond the tree. So it's that central unit. Next slide, please. As I noted, it was designated in 1981 under Part 4 of the Heritage Act. The limited statement in the bylaw is there before you. It's a Power and Sun building, brick row, built in the 1870s. Next slide, please. The application that we're looking at today is under Section 33 of the Heritage Act. It relates to the rear portion of this building, which is this picture before you. As I mentioned, it's the second unit in, so it's the one partially obscured by the large tree. But that is the elevation that's before us today. Next slide, please. The applicant has submitted a request to enlarge the rear exit door and dormer and repair an existing fire escape. The current gable dormer was lengthened to accommodate a door some years ago. The picture on the left is the front elevation and the picture on the right is the rear. So you can see the rear fire escape and an existing door on the third story. Next slide, please. The applicant wishes to retain the use of the door and fire escape, but convert the dormer to a shed dormer in order to provide additional habitable space on the upper floor. The new dormer will be no taller than the ridge of the existing roof. So again, the front elevation on the left, which has not changed, and the new dormer on the right is the rear elevation. You can see the new dormer on the right, shed dormer. The owner is currently in the process of renovating this existing 4-unit dwelling. There are significant interior alterations currently underway on the property. There are no interior heritage attributes noted in this designated bylaw. Therefore, the interior alterations are not subject to Heritage Act approval. The applicant is also undertaking several minor repairs to the existing front door, transom, the wood porch. The applicant is also repairing and restoring the original wood trim and brick molds and replicating the wood, the sashes of the windows themselves, which were damaged beyond repair and concealed by aluminum storms for many years. These alterations are, again, not part of today's application. They were approved through the delegate authority to the Director of Planning. So the applicant has indicated that they'd like to provide more functional space on the upper floor and without impacting the main front elevation of the building. The new large rear dormer is proposed on the west pitch of the roof. The dormer is to be clad in a dark horizontal siding and have a shallow pitch shed roof with asphalt shingles. The existing door accessing the rear fire escape will remain. A condition of heritage approval has been included to require the owner to provide details related to the materials, design, and color of the new door, roofing, and siding to staff for review and approval prior to installation. The standard 11 of the standards and guidelines from Parks Canada directs that to make new works physically and visibly compatible with and subordinate to and distinguishable from the heritage place, unquote. And while the proposed dormer is large, when considered as part of the 7-unit row, the dormer is a subordinate feature to the grandeur of this 2.5-story brick terrace. The new shed dormer will clearly be distinguishable as a new intervention. However, by locating the dormer on the rear elevation and below the height of the ridgeline of the roof, the new dormer will have no impact on the primary front facade elevation of the building. When considered with the other cultural heritage attributes of the property of this brick terrace as a whole, including the brick and stone construction, the original roof profile with chimneys, the stone keystone, segmental arch, door opening and pilasters, transom, the addition of this dormer on this secondary rear facade has a minimal impact to the heritage value of the overall resource. And on balance, the conservation efforts undertaken by the applicants, such as the accurate replication of the original windows, to adapt and reuse this resource, provides that the installation of a large rear dormer is considered acceptable in order to conserve the overall cultural heritage value of the property. Therefore, staff support the conditional approval of this application. We have circulated this and the building permit is currently been applied for and is under review. From a zoning perspective, we note that the existing 4 units are recognized as a permitted non-conforming use. And the bylaw in this area does not permit expansion or alterations that increase the volume of the structure for a permitted non-conforming use. So the applicants will need to either maintain the existing floor area on the 3rd floor or seek permission through a minor variance application. And all necessary Planning Act approvals are required as a condition of this approval. This was circulated to committee, and the comments provided are in your agenda, Exhibit D to the agenda. And staff note, while comments related to the windows and other alterations are appreciated, the subject application only relates to the proposed rear dormer. So the last slide, Mr. Chair, is our recommendation. With the conditions, and I believe the applicant and agent for the applicant are present if you have any questions. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much. Members of
Mr.
the
Chair,
committee?
if I could just interrupt for a moment, I would like to issue a correction on the vote that we just previously did. My numbers were wrong. It is 5 for and 3 against, as we have 8 committee members present.
5 in favor and 3 against.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Committee members, questions on 98 clergy to Ryan. Don, and then Jane.
Yes, thanks, Ryan. I understand what you're saying about what's before us at the moment, but I noticed that the drawings that we're looking at for the building show all the windows as 1/1, and that is not appropriate for renovation of the windows. So can you advise the committee what the new windows are going to look like?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just bringing up my note here. I believe the approval for the windows was to match the existing pattern. Seems to me there was a varying ages, Mr. Chair, varying styles of windows in this building. So I don't have that specific answer. As I mentioned, that was part of a previous approval, and I'm happy to provide that information to Member Taylor outside of this process through an email.
Okay, thank you very much. Don, is that okay?
Well, it is, but it's really a concern that we don't really know what's happening to those windows.
Okay, point noted in the minutes, I'm sure. Jane.
Apologies for the clock there. It'll be finished in a minute.
Oh, it's the 11 o'clock, this one as well. Oh, well.
As far as looking at rehabilitation work on historic buildings, I like to look at them as a whole. And even though windows and doors are not part of this application, I too would like some clarification regarding the windows and doors. Again, referring to A2R0, they look like they're just 1/1, and if Ryan could forward that information to me, I would appreciate it. I think if we're replicating, that means we're actually putting back what was there. So I would appreciate that information. I also would like some clarification on the dormer. In one place it was below the height of the ridge line, and in the executive summary it says no taller than the existing ridge. The drawings, if I'm interpreting them correctly, A19 and A19A, seem to indicate that it is the dormer is at the ridge line, and it also seems to interface with the chimney. So I'd like a comment on that. Finally, I want to say that vinyl siding would not be appropriate, so I would not support that. And it would be helpful if the applicant included information on rain gear as well, because that's going to be, if we approve a dormer of that size, rain gear is pretty important as well. So perhaps someone can answer my questions. Thank you.
Okay, Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to go through you, Mr. Chair, to the member. I will certainly provide the information on the windows following this meeting. As I understand, because of the nature of the space they need to get, this shed roof will be to the ridge line. It won't be visible beyond it, but it'll be, I believe, matching the ridge line and then sloping down towards the rear. The interface with the chimney, I don't think the chimney is to be altered, but I imagine they'll be flashing around there. And the last question, the rain gear, certainly I believe there's eave troughs going to be provided along this edge. It'll be simple, and certainly we'll be following up with the applicant to get specifics on that. And then finally, the cladding, we have recommended a hardy board side. And I believe the applicant is fine with that, and we will be evaluating that too as a condition of approval. And I believe Mr. Purvis is on the call, Mr. Chair, if he maybe would like to add any more specifics to these, as he's the designer for this project.
Paul Purvis, if you have any comments to make at this point, please do. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Perfect. This is my first Zoom. So a little bit of this I've been relying on Ryan's obviously expertise. So that's why the hardy board and the siding conditions and things like that. Obviously I'm not the heritage expert, but we are doing everything within our power to try and at least replicate what was originally there. All right. So as far as the windows and the muttons and things like that, because we are building these windows from scratch, and any work to a door, it's all from scratch. So basically it's a tenor and mortise joints. The muttons go on the exterior of the windows. So they are an additional cosmetic feature. So I know on that, the elevation I didn't have exactly what the muttons were, but I do have a record of what they were, and we are putting them back to the what they were. Okay. And to just comment on the overall condition of that strip, those seven the row houses, they're in extremely rough shape, both interior, like the interior of that, it was going to start to fall down if it wasn't repaired. And sometimes I wonder, if we intend to restore heritage, or at least try and maintain our heritage, it's funny, sometimes it's going to be too late if we don't worry about the inside, because basically people like to use the excuse, well, it's unsalvageable, right? We have in turn reinforced the limestone foundations inside. We're doing everything we can possible to make sure this building, from a citizen's point of view, will replicate the heritage as much as humanly possible.
Good, thank you very much. And I would remind you that condition 4 does say that everything will be submitted to heritage planning staff. So that is carefully looked after. Other questions, other speakers from the committee? I'm not seeing any hands, I don't think. Members of the public?
And Mr. Chair, I'm just going to reiterate for members of the public, if you wish to speak, please use the raised hand function in Zoom located at the bottom of the participants list. If you are joining us by phone, please press *9.
And not seeing anything yet. So I look then for a mover and a seconder to approve the motion and the 6 conditions. 98 clergy. Mover? Oh, sorry, William. Didn't see your hand there. Very good. Thank you. And a seconder? Jeremy? Congratulations on your new addition, by the way, Jeremy. We had an extra member here at the meeting, I noticed. Moved them by Mr. Heinemann, seconded by Mr. Sandange. There have been no changes, so it's the recommendation and the 6 conditions. Further deliberation? Don, was that a wave? Don? No, we've lost Don's sound. There we go.
All right.
Yes, that's better now.
Okay, sorry, I got confused with all these pop-ups. Okay, I think there are serious problems with the dormer, just restricting myself to the dormer. The comments on Dash from the committee were pretty negative. I'm kind of disappointed that staff recommendation is to approve. This particular dormer is highly visible from Brock Street. It's in the past we've for one reason or another approved large dormers that were invisible from the street, but that's not the case here. And the reason for a big dormer is to give more space to the residents and to the unit. And the same could be said for all the units along the row. And if we permit ever increasing dormers, then we might as well say, let's turn the whole back roof into shed dormers. And that is really not appropriate. I mean, these buildings are very fine heritage buildings, and they should not be allowed to proliferate all kinds and styles of dormers. That being said, again, if you read our comments, we're not opposing dormers, but they should be reasonable. And there used to be a city policy, or at least an understanding about dormers. They should be set back from the eaves. They should be set below the ridge. They should preferably be gable and not shed. And they should not be large compared with the overall roof. So my recommendation, which I think I put in Dash, was that I'm prepared to approve a dormer, even a shed dormer, if it is not the largest dormer on this row of houses, okay? And if it is set back from the eaves so the original roof lines are preserved, then that's okay. But as it stands, I'm not going to support this recommendation.
Okay, thank you very much. Other comments on the motion? Jane?
Yes, I feel that the size of the dormer is too large as well. And I did ask about the possibility of, redesigning the interior, but there wasn't really any feedback from that. I am concerned that it will be, set a precedent for the size of dormers on the back of this whole row of 7 townhouses. And I think we just need to be really careful about approving something that is going to then continue along that row, which is highly visible from Brock Street. And it is a very fine building as well. So I do have concerns about the size of the dormer. And I'm just thinking about whether or not I'm going to support this. I do respect the fact that they are doing a lot of work on the windows, etc. But I think a redesign should be looked at of the dormer. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion on the motion that's on the floor? And seeing none, I will call the question. Those in favour of the recommendation with the 6 conditions as printed, please raise your hands. And those,
Mr. Heineman has a comment.
And those opposed to the recommendation, that ties at 4-4. Madam Clerk, does that give a defeat? I can't remember what rules you follow.
Mr. Chair, I think I'm going to let James actually respond to this one, as he has a little more.
Yep, no, that's
experience with
fine.
it.
I should have said at the beginning of this meeting that thank you for being, I know this is your first time, and we agreed that James can join in whenever necessary. James, we have a tie vote at 4-4.
Yes, so normally a tie is considered a lost recommendation. However, at a committee, this recommendation will go to council with a neutral recommendation and a note saying that there was a tie vote. So it'll be up to council to make the determining factor.
Thank you.
So it's not a straight loss.
Yeah. So it goes to council then with a note that it's a tie vote, and councillors can explain what happened if asked. Good. Thank you very much. We move on to 15 McDonald Avenue. We're still in part 4. Threw the wrong piece of paper away.
This is Janice Grant will be introducing this file for us.
Okay, welcome today.
Hi, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. I just moved this week and have new internet, so I'm hoping that I don't freeze up, but please just butt in if something goes wrong.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Elizabeth, if you can pull up the slides, that would be great. Okay, so committee members, by now, I think you are all pretty familiar with this property and this project. It's come in front of the committee a number of times in the past few months. So I'm going to try my best to be brief in my presentation today, but I am here to present the final staff recommendation related to window replacements at 15 McDonald Avenue. Next slide, please. So this property, just to remind everyone, is located on the north side of King Street West at its intersection with McDonald Avenue. Next slide, please. The property contains a 2.5-story red brick building with limestone details, and the building was constructed circa 1894. It served as the rectory for the adjacent Church of the Good Thief until its closure in about 2013. The property is designated under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. An application for alteration under Section 33 of the Act has been submitted to request permission to restore 4 more prominent wooden windows on the property and to replace the remaining 30 windows with replica vinyl windows, as we heard in the delegation today. This proposal is the result of ongoing discussions between the applicant, between some committee members on site and staff. Other proposed aspects of the project that were heard by the committee already have been addressed through a prior council approval for the new addition and enlarged openings, and through an approvals of process carried out under staff's delegated authority, which is granted by the city's procedural bylaw for heritage. So this leaves the windows, the matter that we're hearing today, as the only outstanding item of the project that is requiring committee consultation and council approval. Next slide, please. So the window matter was discussed at the September meeting of Heritage Kingston. The item was presented at that time for information and no recommendation or decision was made. Since September, staff have been working with the applicant to come to a solution that conserves the heritage value of the property while also understanding the financial investment that has been made by the owner and their need to have this window matter resolved before snowfall. Based on discussions with staff and some committee members who were able to attend a recent site visit, the applicants are now proposing to repair the 4 more innate wood windows on the property. You can see an example of those here, and to introduce interior storms to these windows. They will then be replacing the remaining 30 windows with the purchased replica vinyl windows. The retained windows will have the interior hardware removed for cleaning, and the windows will be stripped, sanded, painted, primed and painted. Painting will be in the same or similar color to existing. Sorry, just one second. I just turned off my monitor somehow there. Technical difficulties of the home office. Okay, we're back on. So the 4 windows contain a single pane lower sash and are arched above with multiple panes and decorative mountain bars. They represent the more unique window design on the property and warrant conservation. The remaining windows to be replaced are fairly simple sash windows that are in varying condition. So as is evident through the policy review outlined in staff report, I won't kind of go into all of that detail for you today, but it is contained in staff report. The replacement of original wood windows with new vinyl windows is not typically a preferred option from a cultural heritage conservation perspective. Staff would typically recommend that original windows be repaired and retained wherever possible in accordance with the window policy. In this case, the custom vinyl replacement windows have been purchased and received by the owner and ahead of heritage approvals. And this was based on their understanding of the policy framework at that time. The report in front of you today provides clarification about how the Heritage Act and the window policy applies in this particular case. As the applicant commented through their delegation, the framework is not incredibly clear for property owners, and as such, staff will be working towards revisions to this policy to be presented to the committee in the near future. Ms. Gummo is on the call today, so any questions about this, she'll be happy to answer for you. So in this particular case, the replacement windows have been reviewed by the architect agent and by heritage staff who have confirmed that their design and quality is far superior to that typically seen in vinyl windows. The proposed approach ensures that the larger, more unique original windows are retained. The restoration of these windows with the introduction of interior storms to provide the required thermal and sound insulation aligns with cultural heritage conservation best practices. As a condition of the recommended approval, the applicants must also ensure that the removed windows are provided to an architectural salvage company in Ontario to allow for their reuse. And this condition stemmed out of comments made by the committee members at the site visit. This approach constitutes a reasonable resolution given the specific context of this application. Next slide, please. So staff are recommending approval of this application as on balance, the works to be undertaken on this building constitute significant restoration of an important heritage resource in Kingston, and the resource has been sitting vacant and unmaintained for a number of years and therefore requires quite a bit of work to get to a livable condition. The project also contributes to a number of the city's broader planning goals, including the provision of additional rental housing options into the housing market, the intensification of these central service lands, and the adaptive reuse of an existing heritage building. So that's all I have for you today. We're happy to answer any questions. As you know, we also have the applicants on the line and they're happy to field any questions as well.
Thank you very much, Denise. Committee members, questions? Oh, very, very good. Finally got you tamed, haven't I? Last chance. I'm not missing anybody. Okay, members of the public. Oh, Jane, just, yes.
I just want clarification. I know that the applicant went over this earlier this morning. However, could you clarify what windows on the main floor are being replaced?
Who wants to answer that from the applicant? I'm not sure who's here. Gillian, are you still here?
Yes, I'm still present.
Yep.
On the main floor, the two windows there'll be 3 windows remaining. Two on the south facade facing King Street, one that's behind the enclosed porch, one on the projection of the south facade, and one on the west facade that has another window directly above it in the second floor apartment. So those will be the 4 that will be retained, and everything else is being replaced.
Actually, what I want to know is, I'm thinking about the main floor facade from King Street and McDonald, and wondering how many windows are being replaced on the main floor.
On the main floor from those 2, sorry, I'm just going to need to look at, I off the top of my head, I do not know
Okay.
numbers wise. But I've got a photograph here. What you can see on the main floor, there will be 2 windows replaced on the south and west facade. Okay. The windows behind, there are more windows on the behind that will be replaced, but those are the 2 windows that you can see. There's one more in the enclosed porch. So everything is either enclosed or being kept on the ground floor on the south and west facade, as far as I can see.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm confused as well.
So what I want to know is, here's where I'm coming from. I'm wondering if it might be prudent to maintain all of the windows, restore all of the windows on the main floor, plus any of the more ornate ones on the second floor, to preserve that facade of the historic building. So I'm just putting that out there, and I don't really know, because I can't tell from looking at the various photos how many are being replaced on the main floor and how many are being replaced on the second floor. And I'd just like that clarified. Thanks.
So in the main floor, not part of the addition. So on the south and west facade, there are only there are 4 windows, and 2 of those windows are behind the enclosed porch, so they won't be seen from the exterior. They won't really be seen, like they're not, but they will be. One of them will be repaired and one of them will be replaced. Only one of them on the ground floor on the south and west facade is being replaced, and it's inside the enclosed porch, I believe.
But wasn't there something in the plan about removing that enclosed porch? Or
that window had been enclosed, and it's previously, and it's being reopened. That opening had been closed, and we're opening it again and putting in a new window. There isn't an existing window there.
Oh, okay.
That was the confusion earlier.
Okay. I just wondered if committee would be interested in asking to have the main floor and or second floor windows kept or repaired as opposed to replaced. And I'm also interested in making sure that wherever there are muntins existing on the existing windows, if we support keeping or replacing the windows, that the muntins are put in where they are existing in the old windows. So there we go.
Okay, thank you. Other committee members? And seeing none, am I right? Members of the public?
Again, members of the public who wish to speak, please raise your hand now. I do not see any, Mr. Chair.
Not seeing any at all, so I'm looking for a motion as printed, a recommendation with 3 parts to it, and 4 conditions. Looking for a mover. Kelly Heineman, thank you very much. Looking for a seconder. Jeremy, thank you very much. You have the motion on the floor. Further discussion from committee members on the motion as printed on page 6 of the agenda and not changed at all. And seeing nothing, we will vote, ask for raising of hands. I've lost Councillor Oosterhoff's picture. But there we are. Thank you very much. Okay. Voting then, those in favor of the motion as printed. I've got blurry pictures here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those opposed to the motion. And I see 3, 5, 4, and 3 against. So the motion is carried as printed. Thank you very much for that long discussion and the long effort that has gone on that. And we move on to 85 King 46 Simcoe Street. This is a part 5.
Mr. Chair, I see that Mr. Taylor has raised his hand. I don't know if he has a question related to the last motion.
Okay, Mr. Taylor. No, I've got a frozen screen at present. Can you wave if your hearing is done?
Mr. Chair, in the event, oh, Don seems to be going for a stroll through his house, but maybe we can take a quick recess if Don's not back on here. We can see if he had a point of order.
Unmuted. Don, you had a question.
Hello.
And you have to unmute as well, I believe, Don. No, I'm still not picking anything up at all. Okay. Elizabeth, are you able to hear me?
Mr. Chair, we can hear you fine. Perhaps we can take a quick 5-minute recess.
If we can take a 5-minute, then it's 11:27, so if we're back by 11:35, apologies for this, and we'll see what has happened here. Thank you very much. See you in 5 minutes.
Hi, Don. If we can try to unmute you, the video appears to be working better. So if you can accept the unmute, that would be good.
Okay, I think I'm with you. I seem to have suffered an internet outage, or at least interruption. So I'm very sorry that I really missed the voting on that 15 McDonald application. Can you tell me what happened?
We called Sure, we called we assumed that you had a point of order, as maybe your video was breaking, or perhaps you were trying to alert the chair, but we've called a 5-minute recess. So I think there's about 2.5 minutes left in the recess. So your system appears to be working. And then once the chair returns, we can proceed.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
No problem. Mr. Chair, while you were away, we were able to bring Don back to life. So perhaps we can give it another 1 or 2 minutes for everyone to return, but we should be okay.
No, I just put my headphones on. Sorry, James, what were you saying? We seem to be okay now.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. James was just letting you know that we have, it appears that Mr. Taylor's audio is working now. So we were just going to give a couple more minutes for everyone to return.
Yep. Okay.
Return
I realized I hadn't got my headphones on. That's why I wasn't hearing anything.
No problem. Thanks. Mr. Chair, it has been 5 minutes. I see we're still missing 2 members. However, we do have quorum if you wish to continue at this time.
Okay, do we have Don? Don, we lost you when you were making comments at the end of the last motion and I missed you. So do you want to remake those comments?
Yes, well, I'm very sorry, but it appears I lost internet just when I was trying to speak to the recommendations. And if I understand correctly, the motion was voted on without my participation, and that's very unfortunate. But I realize, if that is the case, then maybe that's life. As you know, I wasn't happy with the recommendation, but and I'm sorry I didn't have the opportunity to speak to it, but it's up to you to say where we go from here.
Well, this is a new one. James, and I will go to James rather than Elizabeth, if you don't mind, Elizabeth. What's happened in the past when there has been a technical failure like this on a Zoom meeting?
Mr. Chair, I can respond to this one because James and I had a brief conversation in the recess.
Good.
So it is up to the committee whether or not they wish to move to reconsider the matter. That would place it back on the floor. However, it does require a mover and a seconder and a vote by the committee.
Can you remind me what happened at the end on that vote on 98 clergy?
I believe this is still 15 McDonald Avenue.
Oh, 15 McDonald, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yes, no problem. And that the motion was carried with 5 votes for and 3 against, as we understood that Mr. Taylor was voting against at that time.
Okay, thank you. So it was 5 with 3 against. Don, does that change your comments that you wish to make now? Do you wish to reconsider the motion?
I'm trying to, are you hearing me?
Yes, I am.
Yes. What I had wanted to do was speak to the motion, which I never had a chance to do. And instead of voting on the motion that came to the committee to make some amendments to it. So, as I say, it's up to you and up to the committee.
Do you wish then to make a motion to reconsider the motion? And Elizabeth will give you the correct wording on that.
Yes.
You'll need a seconder.
Moved.
So moved then. You'll need a seconder. Seconder is Jane McFarlane. Elizabeth, can you read me the wording that you will be putting in the minutes that we reconsider?
Sorry,
Basically
Mr. Chair, I'm just going to ask that James read out some wording here.
Basically, the motion will be that the Heritage Committee reconsider the formal title of the previous item. It's a pretty straightforward procedural motion.
So reconsider the.
It's just to
simply reconsider the previous motion.
Title of the yeah.
Okay, so that means we have a mover, we have a seconder, we have discussion on that. And seeing none, we vote then. A vote in favor means we go back to 15 McDonald. A vote against means we do not go back. So those in favor of reconsidering the motion that on 15 McDonald. Those opposed, and I see 2 against, so that is carried. So we go back then, and I presume we now assume that the vote has not taken place. We get our old pieces of paper up. I'm going to have to get myself reordered here. And we are, where do we go now? Into continued discussion on 15 McDonald. And I presume, Don, that you'd like to speak.
Yes, if I could. First, there have been some considerable presentations, and I'd just like to make some general comments. Certainly, we all feel some sympathy for the applicants. They're under some financial and time pressures, but nevertheless, we want to have the best outcome. First of all, I should say that comments that we've been hearing from some people that the windows are in poor condition and that there are issues with thermal and acoustic performance are really a bit of red herrings. We are not talking, well, Andrew Scheinemann and other people who have seen these windows have said they are in good condition. They need paint, they need putty, but they're basically sound with very, very few exceptions. And the alternatives to the existing windows would be certainly have 2 panes of glass and airspace between, so the thermal and acoustic performance will be essentially the same. So those are not issues. The issues are really the appearance. And as I think we all know, this committee, any heritage committee, is pretty reluctant to approve replacement of original windows with vinyl windows. So the recommendation is a kind of compromise where 4 windows will be repaired and 30 will be replaced. And what I'm going to suggest is, again, a compromise, but I think perhaps a more appropriate one from the heritage point of view, which will be that all the first and second story windows of the King and McDonald Street facades will be repaired and restored, and all the other windows will be replaced. That's roughly half and half restored and half replaced. And to me, that seems a fair compromise. It's up to the committee to say whether that's acceptable or not. And I did submit to the clerk revised recommendations, 1, 2, and 3, which take that into account. Jennifer, could you read them or put them up, or do you want me to read them, or whatever?
James, do you have those? Yes, looks though we do. Okay, that the recommendations for approval be revised to read: the restoration of the first and second story windows on the King and MacDonald Street facades, the replacement of remaining windows with vinyl units replicating the existing patterns, and all windows to have the same color. And that of the conditions, condition 1 stays, condition 2 will say to be revised to remove the 4, so it reads of the windows to be restored. 3 remains as is, and 4 we remove 30, so it reads the removed wooden windows shall be salvaged. You want to speak to that? No, we need a seconder, don't we, first of all? Sorry, you've moved an amendment, need a seconder for that amendment. And Jane has seconded that. So Don, I'll give you the floor to speak.
I think I've already said most of what I need to say. You know, this is an important building. The original windows are in good condition. We simply should not be letting them be replaced. And, you know, I could say a little bit more that if they are restored, repainted, reputtied, and whatever, well, probably not reputtied, depends on how they're done, but they will last forever with reasonable maintenance. Vinyl windows will be replaced in 30 or 40 years, go into the landfill probably. So, you know, I think heritage professionals have long been advocating repair and renovation of existing windows, because they are essentially a permanent feature of a heritage building and should be treated that way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jane has seconded. Do you wish to speak?
Yes, and I'm just going to refer to the policy on window renovations in heritage buildings. Most period windows can be repaired and therefore should only be replaced as a last option. Replacement of a period window on a protected heritage property will only be considered when the period window is so deteriorated that even if it was repaired, very little original material would remain. It seems like that is not the case with 15 MacDonald. So I think that we should go with this change. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Other members wish to speak? Councillor Oosterhoff.
I just, I'm not clear on, is there any reply from any other parties here? Would there be another input from an architect or designer or property owner? Is there someone else who could, how will this impact the project? I'm not clear on it.
Well, the problem is we're on a committee motion, which only committee members can speak on, I believe.
Oh, I see, right. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough. These things get complicated. I'm sure the owners, etc., have thoughts, but they're not in a position to give them. They've made their points before.
Could I make another comment? I know the applicants are concerned about getting this work done before winter, and that the availability of expert window people may be very limited, and I certainly know it can take many months to get people to do things. But when I visited the site, I talked to a couple of the workers or applicants there, and I did indicate or suggest how they could be renovated. And I think that work can be done with any competent carpenter with guidance. And there are several people on this committee with experience with renovating heritage windows. So we can certainly help if that's necessary to help get this work done before Christmas or before winter.
Okay, thank you very much. Other committee members? And
Chair, if I
seeing,
may.
yes, James.
Sorry, it's, James. I won't force your hand. However, in the past, there has been a past practice for chair to comment on the amendments from sort of a feasibility standpoint. So I will leave that with you in response to the statement from the councillor, but I appreciate that you are in deliberations and
yeah, no, thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, no, in my comment would be that this does allow them to go ahead a lot of the way of their planning. And as Mr. Taylor has said, and I was with him when we did that site visit, that the work on the other windows is not an impossible job. It isn't as though new materials have to be ordered or anything. It can be started just as soon as council approves this motion. I don't think it will hold things up in terms of work particularly. Looking for any last comments? Seeing none, then we are voting on an amendment to the motion, which would change the 3 recommendations so that it's the first floor, yes, the first and second floor of the facades facing King Street and McDonald Street, which would be restored, and the replacement of the other 2 sides. And the conditions would change by deleting the 4 in item 2 and the 30 in item 4. Is that correct, Don?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So calling for a vote, those in favor of that amendment, please put your hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Thank you. Those opposed to the amendment? 1, 2, and Jeremy, I must have missed your hand before, sorry. So it was a 7-2. So we now have that is carried. We have a revised motion. Does anybody wish to speak on the revised motion, which will replace windows on the first and second floors of the King and McDonald Street facades and leave the other windows alone, and changes some of the numbers in the motion? Seeing none, then, those in favor of the amended motion, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm missing somebody, am I? Those opposed? 1, 2. Have we lost somebody from the meeting? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
No, Mr. Chair, it should be a total of 8.
8, that's right, 6-2. Yep.
Correct.
Thank you. That motion is carried as revised. Okay. Do we have anybody in time problems, by the way, now being 11:50? Good. 8546 Simcoe Street gets us into part 5. You have made your comments through Dash. Staff introduces the application.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe this one's mine.
Okay, Ryan, thank you.
So if we can go to the next slide, please. So this application is on the southwest corner of King Street East and Simcoe Street and includes 2 separately conveyable parcels. It's immediately across the street from City Park. The property was severed in 2016 and created 2 separate holdings. While the application is an erection of a building that crosses the property line, we're wrapping this into one motion, one presentation. So if we go to the next slide, please. So again, the aerial photo showing the property adjacent to City Park, corner of Simcoe and King Street. Next slide, please. So the properties are designated under both parts 4 and 5 of the Heritage Act. This is 85 King, which is the monumental stone building on near King Street. Next slide, please. And this is the former carriage house, now single-family dwelling on Simcoe Street. That's been recently renovated. Next slide. The property was designated under Part 4 in 1984, and it was designated as part of the Old Sydenham Heritage Conservation District in 2015. The Part 4 bylaw remains with both parcels, and of course, the district covers the entire area. So I won't read through these, but the designation bylaw from the mid-'80s speaks primarily to the mansion, which is the stone building by Power and Son near King Street. And the HCD does, property inventory includes a description of the stone coach house, which is the 40 Simcoe dwelling. And it's rated as significant in the district plan. Next slide, please. So the application before us today is the approval and erection under Section 42 of the Heritage Act. It has been submitted to gain approval for a 2-story detached garage with a shared party wall along the shared lot lines between these two lots. The total building footprint is approximately 217 square meters. Can we go to the next slide, please? This is the location, proposed location. The next slide is the site plan, and you can see the proposed 2-story dwelling or 2-story garage. With an approximately 5 meter by 6 meter single-story conservatory on the north end, facing King Street. So next slide, please. There's a couple of pictures of the existing condition showing where the building is proposed to go along this the south west corner of the property. Next slide, please. This is the view from within the property. And the next slide is from King Street. You can see looking from King Street and from the sidewalk on King Street. Next slide, please. The garage is to be clad in limestone and wooden siding with a standing seam profile steel roofing. In a shed roof style that matches the dwelling at 46 Simcoe. The new windows are metal clad wooden sash windows. The garage door, which is 3 in total, 1 for each dwelling unit on the properties, and are stained wood with a row of windows along the top. The conservatory will include metal windows and framing on a limestone base. The balconies that are to be partially covered by pergolas are located on the north and south ends of the building. You can see them on the drawings there, and are to be surrounded by a railing of either metal or glass. Colors are to match with those on the renovated dwelling at Simcoe Street, and no new residential units are proposed in this garage. So these plans were presented to Heritage Kingston about a year ago, last October. And the applications were initially circulated in December of last year. The applicants requested additional time to consider the comments they received, and a resubmission was received just this past August with revised plans, a revised covering report, and prepared by Michaela Hughes Architects. And the applicant also provided a comprehensive response to all technical comments and public comments received as part of that initial circulation. Following the applicant's consideration of the comment provided through the initial circulation, the plans submitted have been revised, and they no longer include any changes to the noted heritage building at 81 King Street. So if we go to the next slide, you can see a close-up of the interaction between the two buildings. You can see on the right side, the grayed out portion is the upper floor of the proposed garage, and to the right is the the existing stone former stable on the neighbor's property. The little green portion is the encroaching overhang of the building that is to be avoided. So you can see it's been stepped back to avoid any impacts to that adjacent building. So the concept plans still show the proposed development with zero setback from the lot lines, which does not raise concerns from a cultural heritage perspective, but which does not meet the minimum performance standards in the zoning bylaw. Locating the building at zero setback would require approval under the Planning Act, and are assured, especially since the proposal prevents technical challenges to ongoing maintenance and access. Details regarding proper management of the roof drainage will be addressed at building permit stage. So if we skip to the next slide, please. So this was reviewed under the district plan and the policies therein. Section 6.2 of the district plan notes that new buildings are not required to replicate heritage styles, but should enhance the heritage character of the district. Flat roofs may be considered, and stone masonry and wood siding is acceptable. According to the covering report provided by the applicants, the new garages are to be designed to reflect the style of former carriage houses, the former carriage house now dwelling on Simcoe Street, and other shed roof garages in the district. Section 6.2.2 of the plan also directs that one to look to the proportions of neighboring buildings to help influence the scale of the new builds. The massing proposed is similar to the massing of the accessory buildings on the adjacent property. With respect to the height of the buildings, section 6.2.4 of the district plan states that new construction should not exceed the ridge line of the adjoining buildings. The height of the new garage will be less than the adjacent buildings at 81 King and significantly less than the landmark heritage building at 85 King. The new garage will be slightly taller than the dwelling at 46 Simcoe. However, it is set behind the heritage building as viewed from Simcoe Street, and thereby have little impact on the heritage value of this resource and meets the intent of this policy. Go to the next rendering, please. Section 7.5 of the district plan provides guidance on landscaping features on private property. This section speaks specifically to heritage impacts and conservation of remnant walls from former carriage houses and outbuildings, which are prevalent throughout the district. It directs that new construction adjacent to these walls shall be set back. But interestingly, the HCD plan does not include specific similar guidance for maintenance of buildings or other types of walls. Staff believe that this is because the city's policy framework relies on the Planning Act process, and specifically the zoning bylaw for these considerations. The large stone wall along the south lot line on 46 Simcoe is not a remnant wall, but a garden wall feature of the property. And while this policy does not specifically relate to landscape garden walls, the new garage is being designed to allow continued access to both the south garden wall and the east stone wall of the adjacent garage for maintenance and conservation purposes. The new garages are not proposed to be affixed to these walls, nor are they to be reliant on them for structural purposes. As a result, the stone walls are not expected to be physically impacted by the new construction and will be available for continued maintenance, thus conserving these valued resources in the district. So the proposed garages are to be located away from both King and Simcoe streets, are designed to minimize their impacts on the character of the district and flanking landmark heritage buildings by the use of glass conservatory, which softens the massing facing King Street, and a natural cladding palette, the wood and stone. The massing of the new garage, while substantial, is in keeping with the massing of other buildings in this area, thus meeting the intent of the district plan. So in terms of our circulation, a building permit will be required. From our land use team, it's noted that the two separate properties are treated as one for zoning purposes, and an application for zoning amendment has been submitted in order to address a number of performance standards in the zoning bylaw, including building height, lot coverage, and setbacks from the rear and side yard. A consent application may also be required to change the existing access and parking easements as they relate between 85 and King and 46 Simcoe. and a new site plan control application will also be required. Staff have encouraged the applicants to advance the zoning amendment applications prior to Heritage Act approval, since its approval is not guaranteed. And this application, it relies on the planning approval. However, the applicants have advised they wish to proceed with the Heritage Act approval first. Staff are recommending that committee consider whether a revised proposal to meet the required side yard setbacks would impact any of the heritage considerations noted at the current application. Since this proposal may not receive approval under the Planning Act, a condition has been included in our recommendation that allows approval of this revision by the Director of Planning should the Planning Act application not be approved. We did receive a number of public comments as part of this application. I won't go through each one of the submissions. They are attached in your agenda and on Dash. Many of the authors of these letters, I believe, are present today and may want to speak. I would note that these correspondence were provided to the applicants for their information and consideration. The applicants have revised their plans and responded to all the comments provided and series of response letters, again, either attached to your agenda or in Dash. We wish to note that the subject Heritage Act application is required to ensure that the proposed new construction, the garages, conforms to the policies of the Old Sydenham District Plan and does not impact the cultural heritage value of this important part of the city. Land use compatibility matters, such as performance standards like setbacks, vehicle turning radius, and permitted uses are the subject of the associated zoning bylaw amendment application and site plan control application. So the Heritage Committee was consulted on this on 2 separate technical circulations. The committee's comments for both circulations have been compiled and attached in Exhibit H and provided to the applicant. Responding members note general support for the proposed interventions. Responding members primarily noted concerns related to the height of the garage and intensity of the new lighting, which were addressed in our analysis. So in conclusion, Mr. Chair, maybe we can skip to the last slide with our recommendation. Staff support this application, and staff also recommend that approval be granted should the proposal be revised to meet the required side yard setback in the event that their planning application fails. So this is our recommendation as noted with a number of conditions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. There are actually 9 conditions altogether, so I'll just keep that one in mind. Members, you now can confirm that your Dash comments have been correctly included in our agenda. Any concerns about those, Don? Nope, it's all okay, good. Members of the public wishing to make comments and ask questions, if you could raise your hands in the approved manner.
Mr. Chair, I do note that Alex Adams had wished to speak to this matter at the time as one of the applicants. I'm just going to see if he still wished to speak in the public portion.
Okay, I will acknowledge Bruce Downey at this point. Bruce, welcome. Bruce has to unmute himself first.
Okay, I'm there.
Good. Welcome, Bruce.
Okay. Good to be here. Thank you very much. Is it my opportunity to speak?
It's your opportunity as a member of the public to make comments and ask questions.
I'm here as a consultant through Michaela Hughes Architect on behalf of the owner of 85 King 46 Simcoe. And I have been the person who's been most keenly a part of the design process for this proposal and also responding to comments. So she asked if I would please present to the committee today. We have asked to have this come to the Heritage Committee, even though planning department did suggest to go to through planning first, because it has been my experience that most projects, if not all projects that I've been familiar with that have a heritage component to them, seek heritage approval prior to going to planning approval. And there are properties in the immediate area that took that same route. It is understood by the owner that planning approval has to be gained, and we have a competent planner involved in that. I also have with me today, I should mention, Mark Tao and Roberto, who are both consultants for, I'm working on Mr. Sorensen, the owner's behalf. And so if questions need to be asked of them, they can answer them. The issue, I think that Ryan did a very good job describing the background information on the development. I think he correctly described the complexity and extent of the work. There have been a number of opportunities that we've had to respond back and forth. Early, when this was in the concept stage, it was years ago, where we discussed the initial concepts with heritage planners as to what and city planners as to what our intentions were. And so we have been careful to be upfront with what we were looking to achieve in this development. I think that aesthetically, the form and the detailing of the building are consistent with Sydenham District, consistent with building and property buildings on the site, and enhance this property given its recent developments in the area. And we think that the issue seems to stem primarily with maintenance or of fabric, building fabric. Now, it doesn't mean that the configuration of the buildings that we show on this property are not consistent with Sydenham Ward. They are. They are not consistent with the city bylaw, which is far more modern than when buildings were developed in this area. But there are many buildings in the immediate area of this property that are on the property line or very close to the property line, and spaces around buildings are often quite tight. It is the case in this property that there's a very generous side yard, which allows for the construction of the garages that we're proposing. But it's not so generous that we can move the garages off the property line. In consideration of comments that have been made, there have been some discussions and some with staff of the possibility of moving the wall of the garage from the property line to the line of the concrete wall that is close to within about a foot of the boundary, the western boundary of the property. This would move it slightly off the property line, but any more than that would begin to severely inhibit the use of the garages as garages. And because the spaces get quite more confined in the courtyard that's created. Most of the windows view into the courtyard. There are no windows on the property line that, or even close to the property line, that view directly onto an adjacent property. And in this particular development, it is concealed visibly from most adjacent properties. It only peeks out slightly to the property on 8183 King, the conservatory, and if one stands quite far back, further down the rear gardens of the Simcoe Street properties, we will begin to see where the upper level of the garages has been recessed back, and you'd be able to see that. But we've tried to keep the windows away from the property lines and most viewing in. There is a concern that's been brought forward about maintenance, and what we're dealing with here is a client of mine, of Michaela Hughes, that that has focused on maintenance for the past 5 years that I have been in a consultation with him, and he has spent upwards of $1 million, quite a bit over $1 million, to achieve maintenance. That's pointing, that's rebuilding porches, that's re-roofing, re-slate roofing. He is very concerned about maintenance, and so this is something that is always on our minds. And the historic fabric that's on the perimeter of this property is going to be left exposed to continue that maintenance.
Mr. Chair, I'm just going to interrupt for a moment and let you know that the speaker is at his 5-minute mark.
Okay, Bruce,
okay.
Can you finish in 30 seconds? Thank you.
Okay, so I would say that the maintenance portion, we have allowed ample maintenance for fabric between the properties, as is identified by the space that's remaining for maintenance of the walls at 8183 King. They have carried on there, and we've permitted in our detail more than that for the remaining maintenance to take place.
Thank you very much, Mr. Downey. I see Mr. Derbyshire has a hand up. Welcome, Mr. Derbyshire.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, wonderful. I found the unmute button here. So good morning. My wife, Julie, and I are the owners of 81 King Street East. For those that don't know us, the property that's directly next door to the applicant. And I'm opposing this application for a new 6-car garage on the grounds that the current proposal isn't including adequate setback. My objection on this matter is it's not personal, and it's nothing more than me wanting to protect the heritage and financial value of my home. As I'm sure many of you are going to recall, Heritage Kingston very collaboratively co-authored our heritage works, and in doing so granted us permission and fully supported the construction of our carriage house as an extension of our heritage home. When you asked that we observed the required setback to ensure its ongoing maintenance, we did. We had every expectation that the same request we made of our neighbor for our ongoing use, enjoyment, and the maintenance of our home. In the September 15th, 2020 email that I received from Andre Scheinman, who's been our heritage preservation consultant on all of our works, wrote to me on this matter where he stated that there does have to be a way for owners to maintain their property. And if setback is not in effect, then they would have to have an agreement between neighbors. And this is certainly not the case with our neighbor. We've had firsthand experience the hardship of the decision made over 144 years ago. At that time, the owner of our home divided his property into what is now our property and Mr. Sorensen's. For the last 144 years, the rear wall of our stable has served as the dividing property line. Since September 3rd, and almost 7 weeks, and with over a dozen exchanges with Mr. Sorensen's lawyer, we still can't gain permission to allow for 2 simple ladders to be neatly placed on his side yard, leaned up against our own heritage stable, for us to be able to do work on our property. I've copied, and I apologize for all the back and forth, but I've copied you all to the ongoingness of this matter so that you're able to see firsthand the challenges that we're currently having in trying to restore and maintain our own property. Clearly, when Mr. Downey says neighbors as a way of life allow each other to access another's property, maintain their homes, is somewhat out of touch with his own client's predisposition. Without attention before winter, our property, our heritage property, will certainly unnecessarily deteriorate, from which, from a heritage perspective, is very unfortunate given it doesn't need to be the case. Further, if Mr. Sorensen has no setback to his property, how will he build his new structure without damaging our existing heritage buildings and those that attach to them? Clearly, this application isn't good heritage stewardship. It's one thing to inherit a 144-year-old problem. It's quite another to create one today. I compliment heritage staff on how they've handled this matter. It's not been an easy one. I'm disappointed that in this instance, heritage stewardship is deferring to the Planning Act process, but I understand the framework for which you must operate within. That said, I was happy to read that staff shares my concern that this could present challenges for ongoing maintenance and repair and future land use compatibility. Given my most current experience, this is certainly be the case. At the onset of this process, I noted that Chairman Goer, Mr. Taylor, and Ms. McFarland have in writing expressed concerns about the lack of setback, and I contend the setback remains an issue. As a committee, I strongly urge you to consider not supporting this development without setback. At the very least, I ask that you echo staff's concerns and formally register your desire for setback to send a clear message to the Planning Act process that you too are concerned with the heritage impact relating to the ongoing maintenance of this development. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Derbyshire. Other members of the public?
Mr. Chair, Roberto does have his hand raised.
Okay.
Good day. My name is Mr. Roberto. I am a lawyer at Gowling WLG and counsel for the applicant. I just wanted to respond to some of the points raised by Dr. Derbyshire. First and foremost, I would reiterate that staff is on the right track in terms of making sure that you folks are focusing on the proper criteria, the heritage impacts. The issues of access, Dr. Derbyshire, starts his statement by saying this is not personal. I think that says a lot. So the consideration for you folks, I would submit, is what are the heritage considerations? The Planning Act is a separate regime, and I think that again, staff appropriately has come up with conditions to address that. The Planning Act is separate. And so that is a process that will proceed on its own points. I'm not going to get too much into the weeds on some of the history here. Certainly, if somebody receives a trespass notice, maybe they should stop trespassing. But again, I invite you folks to focus on Mr. Downey's submissions on the heritage points on staff's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Other members of the public?
Hi everyone, my name's Alex Adams. I'm a consultant for the neighbours adjacent to 81 King. First of all, thank you everyone for your stamina on this. It's been quite a long morning and we're going into the afternoon now. I just want to build on some of the comments that Dr. Derbyshire's made. And I previously submitted correspondence on this both last year and earlier on this summer. So I'm not going to go into everything, but just my main comment really is that I just think the approval of the permit in its current form is premature without knowing the full extent of what the what the other land use issues are. And I fully understand they're two separate processes, but I also, in my opinion, they do go concurrently as well to a certain extent. I mean, such significant reduction in a setback and just based on the concepts as well, lack of landscaping on 46 Simcoe, etc., and how the site will function as well. And I get that the heritage is separate, and I'm not here to comment on the design of it at all. But the fact that it is located on the property line without understanding the rationale as to why, I think does have a heritage. I think there's a heritage aspect there. And the fact that staff and my client have requested this additional information over the last few months and also over since last year, and it's not been provided by the applicant, I just think that raises a little bit of concern and some questions there that maybe should be raised by the committee. But that's all I've really got to say today, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other members of the public?
Mr. Chair, I see that Mark Tao has his hand raised.
Okay, Mark.
Oh, yes, thank you. My name is Mark Tao. I'm a registered professional planner with IBI Group. So I just, for clarity's sake, I wanted to identify that we have submitted an application for zoning bylaw amendment to address the setback issues. Within that application, there is a comprehensive planning report which addresses and justifies the proposed variances to the zoning bylaw, as well as sets out the rationale as to why it's necessary, appropriate, and how the site will continue to function together as two separate properties. And so I think, as has been pointed out and as recommended by staff, there is a way to address the variances requested through the heritage permit, in that the committee is being asked to consider a scenario where the setback of the garages are as proposed or as maybe slightly increased should the variance process or should the rezoning process result in a slightly greater setback from the mutual wall. But that justification has been provided. It's been provided at the beginning of 2020, so it's been available for the last 10 months as part of that rezoning process. If any other questions, happy to answer, and thank you for the time.
Good, thank you very much, sir. Other members of the public?
Mr. Chair, I'm just going to take the moment just to remind those who are joining us on their phone, if they wish to raise their hand, they will need to press *9 in order to do so. I do not see any further hands,
I'm not
Mr.
seeing
Chair.
any hands, so I will move on to committee members who may ask questions, which will aid the other committee members in their decision regarding the vote. So questions back to anybody so far? Any questions?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Heineman had his hand up, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go first, you with Mr. Heineman, then with Councillor Doherty.
Well, thank you, Peter. I just want to make note, and in my opinion, of course, just to be very cautious that we don't get dragged into a planning issue here. We are dealing with heritage, and we are the Heritage Committee. And with the past history of what I can see here, I would leave the work on the setbacks to the Planning Committee, and I would hope that we just discuss the actual heritage aspect of the planned building. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Doherty. You got to unmute first.
Yeah, I think.
There you go.
Dirk and we kind of went back and forth for a second there. Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I just wonder if I could get some, first of all, I agree with Mr. Heineman. I'll focus on the heritage aspect. And of course, they're two very stunning buildings, the two properties that were kind of, the applicant as well as the neighbor, they're both very stunning buildings on King Street. So it's the King view that I'd like to get a little bit more clarity on, particularly. So you have the conservatory or at the front on King Street. I wonder if we could. I'm trying to imagine what the wall facing the neighbor would look like attached to the conservatory, and also the above in the report, as well as on the screen earlier, there was a person standing, on a balcony, and it looked like, and I'd like to hear more information about the kind of materials and siding that would be used there, and I'm hoping through the application, the planning, that there would be some talk, obviously, about trees and things too on the King Street side. But, so it's the view of King Street. From King Street, I would like to hear more about.
Ryan, do you want to try that one, or do you want to pass it on to the applicants?
Mr. Chair, I would recommend Mr. Downey is much more eloquent at details such as this, so he may want to speak.
Mr. Eloquent Downey, the view from King Street.
Very kind, Ryan. The view from Kingston, the conservatory was was installed on the King Street end in order to bring that form to grade. So it was less of a blunt or face towards King, even though it's quite set back. The western side of that conservatory will be stone. It's intended to be stone, and it's intended to be stone on the 83 King Street side as well. So they won't be looking into the conservatory, they'll be looking at stone. That was the intention of that design. The upper level balcony at the is all wood clad in the that's all wood siding continued all through that upper level. So it will be a gray toned wood clapboard siding. If that answers your question.
It's just really hard to, yeah, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Oosterhoff.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a hard decision. a lot going on here. I didn't know all this, but I'm inclined to support this application, and I do recognize the complications, but I appreciate what Mr. Heineman says as well, and I think it probably should move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other committee members?
Mr. Chair, just before we continue, if we could perhaps give staff an opportunity to reply to any of the comments from the public. We did not allow them to in the last round. I just wanted to make sure that staff did not have anything to reply to.
Okay, can I just check that we've run out of committee members' questions, and I don't see anything. So staff comments?
I'm not seeing any, Mr. Chair.
No, okay, thank you then. So committee members, your last final comments before we do a vote. Anybody wish to speak further? Last chance, Don.
Just a comment, and I realize it's not our jurisdiction about setbacks, but to me, there is possibly a point in the old days, the setback requirement was not in existence, and so buildings were built up to the property line, and nowadays that's not allowed, of course, but I think there could be a distinction if we're talking about an exception, or when would an exception be appropriate. In the case of an outbuilding, then it seems to be not unreasonable to allow it to be built up to the property line, where that property line is defined by a wall. In the case of a residential building, then obviously you do need a setback so you have access to the walls and for repairs and so on. So there is a difference in my mind between the setback issue between the 81 King side and the 85 King side. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Other members wishing to make final comments? And seeing none, we move on then to voting on the motion. The motion cannot be amended or deferred.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, there does seem to be a couple more comments before we move,
okay,
the motion.
Jane, if you could use the hand, it really helps. So Jane.
Oh, sorry, I did it first too. Jane first? No. Okay, my thoughts to Dawn. Like, I understand where Mark and Julie are coming from with the setback, because it is, well, on their side, it's a garage with some sort of livable space above. It's the same sort of building, really. I mean, with one, it's attached to the house, but the other isn't. So I can understand why they're upset that they had to abide by these bylaws. I think from a heritage standpoint, I think they both should have been built along the line. I think that would, again, like you're saying, go back to how originally that sort of condition would be treated. That outbuilding could possibly have shared a line. But yeah, that was just a comment to what Don was saying.
Good, thank you. Jane?
I think, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, terrific. I want to go back to Councillor Doherty's concern about just how things are going to look from King Street. And I would really like to see the motion up on the screen so that we could just review it. I'm wondering how, if we vote on saying if they don't get there, if they have to have a setback, how is that going to impact on the view from King Street? So I need to know exactly what we're agreeing to. And I still would like some clarification on how it's going to look at from King Street with the concrete wall.
14, I think, James, if you can get there, yeah. So it's a couple of slides before that one. Can we still go back a little bit? Okay, I think that's the one you want to comment on, Jane.
I'm trying to just envision the view from King Street, and wasn't there something in the recommendations or the conditions about if it had to be moved over, then we're still agreeing to that? So I need to see the conditions. I can't pull it up anywhere.
Ryan, can you help on that? Okay, there's your conditions. They're the first 4. There's the second.
Okay.
The rest of them.
Hi, it's Andrea here. Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. So
yeah, thank you.
What we're recommending is that that the committee approve this this proposal in the situation that's currently proposed, again, based on heritage merits, and also in the situation where they're meeting the required setback, if they're unable to get that approval. And the reason for that is because from a heritage perspective, our recommendation is the same. But we do have this concern about the ability to receive permission to build in this exact location. In terms of the view from King Street, I would just note that it is it's set back from King, so we don't expect there to be like a conflict with views of the existing buildings. We do think that it works in fairly well. And if you're looking for more detail than that, we're happy to provide a little more background on that too. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. So at present then we're assuming, we can go back to the full screen now, James, so I can see everybody, please. Thanks. We're assuming then that we are looking at only the heritage aspect of things here. Other final comments? Just working out where we are on this. Making your final comments. Thank you for those ones. And I'm not seeing anybody. So I am ready to call the question, reminding you that it is as printed, not amendable, not deferrable.
Mr. Chair, we do not have a mover or a seconder yet at this time.
Okay, no, I was just reminding them what they have to do so that, you're simply voting to support or not support the staff recommendation that's printed. So looking for a mover for this motion, Mr. Heineman, and a seconder, Don Taylor. Thank you very much. discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of you, and those against, that carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, members of the public, etc., who were here for that. We move on to 7 George Street, and I would remind you that there is a letter which was sent out to you last night dealing with this, a very positive letter, I might add. Who is looking after 7 George Street?
Mr. Chair, that would be Philip Perel.
Philip.
Hello there, Mr. Chair. Yes, I am the planner who has worked on 7 George Street.
Good. Good morning. Welcome. Good afternoon.
That's right. And good afternoon to everyone here as well, and you, Mr. Chair, as well. Okay. So through you, Mr. Chair, this is an application for an alteration for a garage at 7 George Street, and we will get into some of the details momentarily. So next slide, please. So as we can see here on this map that didn't render as well as I wanted to, but that's the life. So this is on the edge of Berryfield. So it's coming right off of that highway, and then it's one of the first houses on the main entrances to Berryfield. And as you can see on the right, these are both houses taken, or both pictures taken from Google Street View of the house as it existed roughly 2 years ago. It is very similar to the way it is depicted there, except there's a little bit more rundown in terms of the garage and in terms of some of the fencing, and we'll be able to take a look at that in some of the subsequent site images. And there's a list of site images in the report as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so as we can see here, once again, looking at the edge of Berryfield, that with the red arrow is the garage in question that is looking to be altered. And that is the subject, one of the main subjects in addition to the fencing of this application. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to be reading a bit off the slide here as well, summarizing certain aspects of the report. So in this case, 7 George Street is designated, and it is actually designated under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act. So it was constructed by local builders, William and Frederick Allen, 1.5 story frame house that has a rectangular plan with a medium pitched roof, medium front gable roof, apologize. The property was owned by William Norman. The front facade is divided into 2 bays with a side entrance and double hung window unit, and a 1.5 story addition and a 1 story addition that is located on the north side. So when looking at that, the garage is not mentioned at all in terms of the heritage attributes for the property itself. So it is not mentioned in the Heritage Conservation District property evaluation, and the garage is not considered a heritage building. However, as we all know, changes to properties that are designated, even accessory buildings like a garage, can have an impact on the character of the property itself and the neighborhood around it. So that was the lens that was used when evaluating the appropriateness of the alterations looking at this garage. And then as mentioned earlier, the fence status is also important. The fence and hedges around the property are considered heritage features for the Berryfield Heritage Conservation District. Next slide, please. So these are the following alterations that are proposed for the garage. So they're going to be putting in a new foundation that will slightly raise the height. This is to replace a cracked foundation. It is going to increase the slope of the roof and the resulting height to better match the main building, and it will be retaining its existing shingles. They will be adding new windows to match the existing historically accurate main house, but the colors are yet to be determined. And a new French and stabled inspired doors are also proposed to be put in, and a new wood siding and fresh coat of paint instead of staining, color also to be determined. And then there will be a change in roof drainage, which is actually regarding that letter that was sent in as an addendum to the report itself, talking about neighborhood support. Next slide, please. Okay. So the goal of this revitalization process is to turn this garage into a fully insulated, heated, and finished ceramic studio that would be a small workshop and have a storage loft above. The garage is a non-heritage building, but as mentioned earlier, it could affect the district character. The new foundation requires replacement due to it being cracked. The location will be the same as it is currently sitting there. It is not being moved like they're showing in that picture above, where there was a minor variance on this application about a year or two ago. So it's going to be staying in its current location, just to make sure I hammer that home. And the height would be increasing 6 feet from 12 to 18 feet. And the main point that's important about this is that it's still going to be below the nearest heritage building. And in this case, that would be the main building on the property, to make sure that it maintains its prominence on the property. This increased height will not frustrate quote unquote significant views. This includes the church, and this includes the staging grounds where military practices were done, historically speaking. The new roof slope will be done to reflect the main gable of the house, and was chosen to remedy the existing contemporary suburban appearance and to minimize shadow impacts on neighboring properties that could result from a reorientation of the building itself. And the existing asphalt shingle roof is in good condition, so it will be remaining. Next slide, please. All right. So this is a little bit more information specifically looking at the windows and doors. There will be pictures following in just a moment from the site visit itself. So the new windows and doors are proposed for this property. Again, colors that be determined. And the colors that are being determined are subject to heritage staff approval. So when the colors are actually chosen, conditions have been added to the report that will actually have to confirm that it is suitable for the building itself and the district as a whole. So the windows and doors are to have a style, style that matches the main house, and wood trim that also matches the main house. The French doors, which are on the bottom image there to the left, are going to be facing the main building and will not be visible from the street. The doors on the doors for the main garage entrance will be replaced with stable doors with half glass, as in the seen in the rendering right above there. And this is to be consistent with other Berryfield garage doors. So all windows, minus the one that has a slight half circle on the near the peak of the roof, will be vertical and rectangular dimensions, which represents the generally accepted windows for the Berryfield Conservation District. And the rounded window was chosen to emulate a window on the principal heritage building on the property. Next slide, please. Oh, those pictures came out pretty good, actually. Nice. So the exterior of the garage is to be updated with new wood siding and a new fresh coat of paint. As you can see there in some of the pictures, the existing paint is chipping away, and the garage is in a state of not disrepair, but is getting there. And so the siding is to have 1x10 boards and 1x2 battens. And the northwest sides would have non-combustible siding because they are both very close or very close to the abutting properties to the north and west. Next slide, please. All right. So this discussion partially deals almost exclusively with the drainage issue that's existing on the property today as we speak. So this is proposed to improve the existing drainage situation by adding a roof eavesdrop, and the projection onto the neighboring property will be at the discretion of the neighbors. And as you can see with that letter that was provided as an addendum, the neighbor is supportive of changes to the garage. An alternative, though, if there are issues with the neighbors, is that they will be adding a hidden gutter built behind the fascia to divert to divert water from 7 George Street's patio. And due to the fact that it is being set back from the front building itself, and that is not as prominent of the building surrounding it, this potential visual disruption would likely be minimal. The property itself is a archaeologically sensitive area, and as the garage is replacing its foundation, there is of course potential to disrupt the existing soil. Since the garage is proposed to go into the same exact location, at this time, an assessment is not required. However, a condition has been added to the report noting that if the proposed foundation exceeds the existing area, an archaeological assessment of the entire property, not just the garage, will be required at City Heritage staff's discretion. And the reason that we're saying the entire property is because for Berryfield, when one part of the property is assessed, they've been assessing the entire property, so that we would want to be consistent with our past approaches here, if that was required. Next slide, please. All right, so the main fence alterations that are being anticipated are to replace sections of the fence for a more unified look. And this would be in particular, if you look at the bottom right picture there, where it shows the white fence, and then it shows like it looks like normal cut wood that's not painted. That would be the part of the fence that they are trying to replace and add for accessibility. It'd be slightly widened, and then it would be made to look very similar to the existing fences there and improve an existing non-visual consistent fence per se. And then if you're looking at the bottom left picture there, they wanted to add an additional fence area to that to increase their privacy, and it would also be hiding the gravel roadway that would also be there too. So all fences are proposed to be within 1 meter in height, which is the district's requirement. The existing hedges there are to remain as they help properly define the property itself in addition to the fences there. And the gate near the northern portion of the property that is not the driveway, as I mentioned earlier, is to increase accessibility. And we've already talked about the fence to the southeast that will be increasing privacy. And of note, despite these fences technically projecting onto city property, the fence addition on the bottom left image is proposed because it will be in line with the other existing fence that is currently still on city property. And believe it or not, that is actually one of the heritage attributes of the property, is that there are certain aspects of the property that are on city land. And next slide, please. So the below summarizes the recommendations here and that we mentioned in this report, and we are recommending approval of this application at this time. Next slide, please. And so these are the conditions. The biggest ones, in my humble opinion, are number 7, which talks about the archaeological clearance requirement. It also talks about the requirement to apply for an encroachment permit for that fence that's on city property. So we have a record of it. And another big one, of course, is that we want to the city heritage staff needs to be provided with the proposed colors in those 3 major sections, because those have not been decided upon at this time for approval. And so those are the major highlights in terms of the recommended conditions. And with that in mind, I will leave it to everyone else. Thank you very much for your time.
Good. Thank you very much, Philip. Thank you, James. Can you members please confirm your dash comments? Any concerns with those? And seeing nobody, members of the public making comments and ask questions. I remind you, you already have the letter from the neighbor approving of the work that's being done. Do we have any other people present who wish to speak here? And I'm not seeing any hands at present.
Again, Mr. Chair, I'm just going to remind people to use the raised hand function at this time if they wish to speak. And I also do not see anyone at this time.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Committee members, questions? Okay. Nobody's going to complain when I move on to your final comments. Excellent. To remind you that this is a part 5, so the motion will be moved, seconded, and cannot be amended or deferred. Looking for a mover for 7 George Street. Jeremy was the first hand, Councillor Doherty was the second hand. Discussion? And seeing none, if you can vote by waving those in favour. Oh, very good. And those opposed, there will be nobody because all the hands were up. That is carried. We turn over to our last page. I believe there are no working group reports. I presume the groups have not been meeting. Ryan, there are 4 emergency approvals here. Any comments on them?
Just quickly, Mr. Chair, the first one was a danger of some falling plaster over public access to the Hanson lot. It's the Grey Trust building, Victoria Grey Trust building. The next 3 are leaking roofs that have been repaired and replaced.
Yeah, and for new committee members, things like leaking roofs and trees falling on the house, we get them out of the way as quickly as possible. Motions, notices of motion, other business, your correspondence, you've got the letter about 7 George Street, the next meeting, November 8th.
Mr. Chair, it looks like Mr. Heineman has his hand up for other business.
Other business. Do you have your hand up? Kelly, yes.
Thank you, Peter. It's not really other business. It's a bit of business. I'd just like to make a comment and thank Elizabeth for her hard work. She's been excellent at communication. It's a new role for her, and Elizabeth, I think you're doing a great job. Thanks ever so much.
I think probably everybody will second that. And she has also said that she will try and get minutes out a little bit earlier so that rather than waiting for the next meeting, we'll have a chance to look at them ahead of time. So the next meeting, November 18. Need a mover and a seconder for adjournment if you wish to adjourn. Oh, look at that. Councillor Doherty and Kelly Heineman in favour of adjourning. Opposed? Thank you all so much. That's 12:51 and 3.5 hours. That's the longest we've ever done on the Zoom. And my eyes are starting to get crossed. I imagine some of yours are as well. But thank you. And especially thank you, Elizabeth and James, for your help. And Ryan and all of your staff. Take care. We will see you.